On the day we descended the mountain after completing our training, my sister and I rescued two dying Zhulongs. My sister promptly claimed the gentle, jade-like one, leaving me with the ice-cold creature. For 100 years I nurtured that Zhulong, feeding it monthly with blood from my heart. Though he grew stronger with each passing day, his demeanor remained frosty as winter's touch. A century later, when my sister married the Zhulong Beastman she adopted, he finally agreed to form a pact with me. Overjoyed, I never expected him to steal my cultivated inner elixir during our bonding ceremony. He immediately fed it to my injured sister. Get well soon, Lena. When you become a true beast tamer, don't forget to take me into your household. He groveled obsequiously at my sister's feet, pledging fealty like a vassal. Yet I died drained of spiritual power by his treachery. When I reopened my eyes in rebirth, I vowed never to choose him again, only for my sister to force him upon me regardless. His frosty demeanor this time, I'll be damned if I indulge it again. I'd like to show him who the real Beastmaster is. Both my sister and I were trained as the next generation of Beastmasters at the mountain villa. On the day we completed our training and descended the mountain, we followed our master's orders and rescued two dying Zhulong. If you can form a contract with these ancient Zhulong, your cultivation will advance tremendously. Our master stroked his snow-white beard as he admonished us, but Zhulong is an ancient divine beast with an unyielding temperament. Whether you can form a contract with them depends entirely on your own abilities. Sister Lena's eyes sparkled with excitement, eager to try. She was the first to pick up the jade-like creature, naming it Alaric. The remaining one, cold as ice, is named Erebus. My sister turned to me with a smile. Vera, this last one has quite the personality, rather like you. Why don't you take care of it? I stared blankly at Erebus. Just like in his past life, he remained frosty, his expression dripping with arrogance and disdain. In my past life, I didn't mind any of that and joyfully brought Erebus home. When he was weak, I nourished him with the essence of my heart's blood. For a full century I fed him, until he grew strong and vigorous. Throughout those 100 years, I asked him every year if he'd form a pact with me. Every answer I got was negative. He rarely spoke to me and forbade any physical contact, or he'd lose his temper. I thought it was just difficult to raise him, and maybe things would improve with time. But unexpectedly, on the very day my sister Lena married her Zhulong Beastman, Erebus accepted my bonding proposal. I was overjoyed. Little did I know, what awaited me was unforeseeable harm and betrayal. Seizing my moment of weakness, Erebus stole my cultivated core and fed it to my injured sister Lena. He knelt humbly before her, begging that when she became a beast tamer, she would take him as her familiar. That was the moment I finally understood. From the very beginning, my orc Erebus had been deeply infatuated with my sister, just like his brother Alaric. When my sister suggested I adopt Erebus, I just gave a mocking smile and looked away. I bowed to my master and declined. Master, Vera's spiritual energy is too weak to tame Erebus. I beg you to choose another. My refusal had barely left my lips. Erebus, curled nearby, suddenly raised its head and stared at me in disbelief. Every disciple knew what extraordinary fortune it was to find and personally train a Zhulong. The opportunity they'd kill for was handed to me on a silver platter, yet I turned it down. Both my master and elder sister stared at me in utter disbelief. Vera, are you absolutely certain? You're really giving up on adopting Erebus? I nodded resolutely. Seeing this, my sister frowned and stepped closer to whisper advice in my ear. Vera, Zhulong is a once-in-a-millennium beastman that any beast tamer would kill for. He'll enhance your spiritual power. Don't you see all your fellow disciples fighting over him? Just take him for now. Trust me, Lena's my blood sister. I know she means well, but she never realized. Just like his brother, this Erebus only had eyes for her. I've raised Erebus for half a year, yet he remains an ungrateful wretch. He'd sooner kill me than form a pact with me. At this thought, a wave of bitterness welled up in my heart. Before I could utter a word, Lena stepped forward and answered the master on my behalf. Master, Vera merely had a momentary lapse in judgment. After some hesitation, she still chose to adopt Erebus. We beg for your approval. With that, our master nodded and dismissed the gathering. Lena had Erebus shoved into my room. She smiled sweetly while repeatedly reminding me, Vera, adopting beast folk is training in beast mastery itself. If we can raise Erebus well, the only two beast masters in this mountain estate will be as sisters. After giving me her instructions, Lena left with Alaric. I quietly watched Lena's retreating figure, unable to suppress my envy toward my sister. She's truly blessed, though not the master's chosen beast tamer. She avoids perilous duties while being adored and protected by both Alaric brothers, yet after all my efforts, I gained nothing. Even the orc I raised for a century turned into an ungrateful wretch, stealing my core and causing my demise. Only after Lena left did I slowly turn to examine Erebus. In this life too, he lay dying just as when we first met. The moment I brought him into the room, he watched me with wary, unblinking eyes, as if bracing for whatever harm I might do next. In my past life, Seeing him so frail and on death's door, I feared he'd perish, so I drew blood from my own heart to nourish him. He shrank back in fear, while I coaxed him forward with a smile. Don't be afraid. This is a Beastmaster's heart blood. Drinking it will only speed up your recovery without any side effects. But now, I've given up all hope of forming a contract with him. With an impassive face, I fetched water, poured it into a bowl, and tossed it beside him, under his intense stare. I didn't even glance his way before turning back to my study to attend to my own affairs. The Beastmaster exam is just around the corner, and I must focus on my preparations. I absolutely can't afford to fail. In my past life, I won the Beastmaster exam, which is why so many people criticized me when I was officially appointed as a Beastmaster. This time, I'll win fair and square. I was completely absorbed in my book when I suddenly felt someone's gaze upon me. I looked up and sure enough, Erebus had taken human form, leaning weakly against the doorframe with pallid lips and ashen complexion. He stood motionless, staring at me without blinking. What do you want? My tone was icy, and I instinctively furrowed my brows the moment Erebus' face came into view. Erebus pressed his lips together. Vera, why have you stopped feeding me your heart's blood? My heart skipped a beat. I snapped my gaze onto Erebus before me. 2. How did he know I'd given him my heart's blood? And it's just the beginning. How did he know my name is Vera? Erebus kept his eyes fixed on me as he moved closer. Despite my icy glare, he actually raised his hand and gently touched my face. I was utterly stunned. In my past life, I nourished Erebus with my heart's blood for a century, yet he never once let me touch him. Now we've barely met, and I was even considering abandoning him to his fate. Why is he initiating contact with me now? Wasn't he always aloof, proud, and icy as frost? I stared at him in disbelief. Vera, I'm sorry. I want to form a contract with you. Erebus wore an expression of lovesick sorrow. I froze momentarily before snapping back to reality. Erebus has always been volatile, a master of deception who tricked me into surrendering my core under the pretense of forming a pact. I let out a bitter laugh. Erebus, what do you aim to steal from me this time? My core again. But this time, I won't give him the chance. Erebus seemed taken aback by my defiance. He froze momentarily before shaking his head in sorrow. Vera, you've got me all wrong. I never meant to take anything from you. I was wrong before. This time, I just want to stay by your side and protect you properly. I coldly pushed him away before he could finish. Erebus, cut the crap. This trick might have worked on my past self, but he's already killed me once. Even if he stripped naked, knelt before me, called me master, and begged to form a contract, I wouldn't even bat an eye. Stay if you want, but I won't lift a finger for you anymore, nor form any pact with you. Leave whenever you please. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I shoved Erebus out the door with icy detachment, slammed the door with finality. I took several deep breaths to calm myself down. For some reason, just the sight of Erebus' face makes my breath hitch and an inexplicable suffocation overwhelm me. Perhaps it's the lingering dread of death and undying hatred for Erebus from past lives that still haunt me. I glanced back. Erebus hadn't left. His silhouette cast upon the door and window formed a sharp outline, standing motionless at my threshold like some guardian spirit. Guardian spirit, I'd be lucky if he doesn't get me killed. Come morning, I'll make up some excuse to kick him out of my room. Let him go wherever he pleases and make pacts with whoever catches his fancy. Let him fend for himself. His life or death is no longer my concern. I buried myself in my book as thunder roared outside in the dead of night. Soon after, a torrential downpour began. Instinctively, I stood up and looked out the window. Erebus still hasn't left. His entire body was exposed to the rain, completely drenched. I couldn't help but frown. Barely alive when we found him, yet instead of finding shelter, he stands in the rain pretending to be fragile. Who's he trying to fool? Then I suppressed my compassion once more. Erebus has always been cunning. This might just be another sob story he's putting on to manipulate me. 3. I ignored him, leaving him standing in the rain all night long. The next day, I woke up at my desk to find dawn had already broken. After washing up, I instinctively glanced out the window. Erebus was nowhere to be seen outside. As expected, seeing I wouldn't relent, he must have left on his own. Perhaps it's for the best. Just as I was feeling hungry and about to go find something to eat, my door was pushed open from outside. Erebus stood there still dripping wet, water trickling from his hair, yet he was carefully cradling a wax paper package in his hands. With gentle eyes, he handed it to me. Vera, this is for you. I paid no heed and turned to leave. Erebus grew anxious and quickly gave chase. He blocked my path, then unwrapped the waxed paper package himself to reveal delicate osmanthus cakes glistening inside. I froze in surprise, can't help reminiscing about past lives. When osmanthus bloomed across the mountains, Alaric would often trek down just to buy Lena osmanthus cakes. Watching them, I longed for Erebus to do the same, but he just shot me an icy glare. Make your own if you want some. Flatly refused. Later I gave up on the idea, until one day I unexpectedly saw Erebus returning from town with osmanthus cakes. My heart leapt, thinking he'd secretly bought them for me. I waited eagerly for his surprise, only to watch him dash straight toward Lena's courtyard the moment he returned. So his osmanthus cakes were also meant for Lena. Even though Lena already had more osmanthus cakes than she could eat, people kept sending her more. I longed to try just one piece, yet even my own orc companion would rather give them away than grant me this simple wish, remembering past disappointments. I stared at the osmanthus cakes before me. Feeling my heart grow colder by the second, I looked up at Erebus. Is this for me? His eyes sparkled when he realized I was talking to him, nodding eagerly in response. The next moment, I took it from him. Erebus smiled. I deliberately let go again. The exquisite osmanthus cakes instantly tumbled to the ground. I purposefully stomped down hard with my foot. The osmanthus cakes immediately crumbled into mush. Erebus stared dumbfounded at the osmanthus cake, while my expression turned icy again. Erebus, this is my final warning to you. Go back where you belong, stop following me and quit scheming around me. Maybe I used to like osmanthus cakes, but now I can't stand them. I glared at Erebus with icy contempt, my voice dripping with venom. For the mere sight of you makes me sick. Erebus turned deathly pale. He stared at me in disbelief, his eyes quickly welling up with tears. This expression, I've never seen it on Erebus's face before. I sneered. Stop playing the victim in front of me, Erebus. Don't you have feelings for Lena? Why don't you go to her now? Maybe she'll take pity on that pathetic look and welcome you into her bed. Isn't that exactly what you've been wanting? With those words, I turned away with a cold smirk. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my arm. Erebus' voice came from behind me, hoarse and low. Vera, I don't want anyone else. I only want you. I wish to form a covenant with you. Trying the same old trick again. If he hadn't brought up the blood pact, I wouldn't be this furious. Was killing me once not enough? Let me go. I won't let go. Erebus remained stubborn, finally losing patience. I channeled my spiritual energy. A flash of light sent Erebus flying out the door. As Erebus hit the ground, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. It just occurred to me that he must still be terribly weak. In our past life, it took weeks of feeding him my heart's blood before he gradually recovered. Now there's no such sacrifice, nor any tender care. To make matters worse, he spent last night drenched in the pouring rain. At this thought, I steeled my heart and shut the door, refusing to look at him again. The Beastmaster exam is approaching. That afternoon, I strapped on my herb basket and headed alone to the back mountains to gather ingredients for beast taming. But I unexpectedly found an injured Dylan. When wounded, Dylan had transformed into the shape of a little loach. Fortunately, I'd read about similar cases in my books beforehand, so I gathered some medicinal herbs and treated his wounds. To my surprise, when Dylan learned I was his rescuer, he followed me all the way back to the mountain villa. Hearing he had nowhere else to go, I agreed to let him stay. As I returned to the villa with the herbs, I spotted Erebus waiting at the mountain pass from afar. Erebus, usually aloof and proud, actually wore a flustered expression. Vera, you're back. His gaze landed on me with cautious hesitation. Ignoring him, I turned to Dylan. Come with me. I'll show you to your room. Dylan nodded and followed along. Erebus's cautious smile froze the moment he spotted Dylan. He blocked my path, his eyes rimmed with red as he demanded, Vera, who is he? He's the orc I want to form a pact with. He'll be living with me from now on. Erebus froze completely. He stared at me in disbelief, his voice trembling slightly. Vera, are you really abandoning me? I couldn't help stealing a few more glances at him. I just can't fathom how such pitiful words could come from his mouth. I remember begging him desperately in my past life to form a contract with me, yet he stubbornly refused. When he finally relented, it turned out to be because of Lena. I lowered my gaze for a long moment before finally speaking my last words with calm resignation. Erebus, you never truly intended to form a pact with me. There's no point in wasting each other's time. Go, find your precious Lena, or whoever else you fancy. I have Dylan now. The Beastmaster trials at the mountain estate begin in 3 days. I expect you to be gone by then. With that, I grabbed Dylan's hand and walked away without looking back. Erebus didn't follow. He stood watching me from a distance, his expression unreadable, but I couldn't care less anymore. Dylan is highly perceptive and always knows exactly what I want. The moment I proposed forming a contract, he agreed without hesitation. The Beastmaster trials are held every 3 years, and this time my sister Lena and I will be participating. Our master will choose one true Beastmaster between us sisters to represent the pinnacle of our mountain villa's strength. On the very night I was about to form a pact with Dylan, a violent storm suddenly raged outside, pierced by a blood-curdling scream. At first, I paid it no mind, until my junior sister came rushing in, panic-stricken. 5. Senior Vera, something terrible has happened. Your Zhulan is about to be struck dead by lightning. Come see for yourself. I rushed outside in shock, only to find Erebus standing exposed beneath the storm, as if enduring divine punishment, if I had to guess. He probably summoned those heavenly thunderbolts himself. Erebus, what are you doing? I couldn't help but frown as my gaze fell upon his battered body covered in wounds. That proud and aloof Zhulong had actually reduced himself to such a pitiful state. He looked at me with desolate eyes, his body long past its limits yet still stubbornly holding on, until the final bolt of heavenly lightning struck. Erebus could hold on no longer, collapsing weakly to the ground, yet his gaze remained fixed on me. Murmuring, Vera, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. I sighed inwardly. If this Zhulong really dies in my courtyard, I'll become the outcast of the entire mountain estate. I had no choice but to step forward and help him up. Erebus caught my movement, a faint glimmer flashing in his eyes as he forced a weak smile. Vera, I was wrong. I was wrong before. I didn't know losing that inner core would kill you. I only wanted to save Lena. But I never realized she'd swallow the whole thing and couldn't spit it back out. Vera, I never meant to kill you. Tears of remorse streamed down Erebus's face as he spoke. I stood frozen in shock. No wonder Erebus has changed so much in this life. He's been reborn too. Vera, Erebus gripped my hand tightly. I summoned these 9 heavenly thunders. This is my atonement to you. His gaze was almost pleading. Could you not form a pact with another orc? Could you give me one more chance? I'll admit I wavered for a moment. Part of me still wants to believe Erebus wasn't lying. After all, forming a contract with an orc like Zhulong would only enhance my cultivation exponentially, yet I simply can't bring myself to trust someone who betrayed me in our past life. Just as I stood there conflicted, Dylan stepped forward with a reassuring smile to bail me out. Vera, you don't have to force yourself. How about I have a duel with Erebus, if he can defeat me? Let him form the contract with you. I'll bow out willingly. I was about to refuse. Erebus cut in first. I accept. My gaze fell on him with concern, struck by 9 heavenly bolts. I'm barely clinging to consciousness. Standing up seems doubtful at best. And you still dared to accept Dylan's challenge in this state. Erebus forced himself to stand through sheer willpower. His face was deathly pale, yet his gaze remained tender and resolute. Vera, please give me one more chance. I was wrong before. But now I know what truly matters to me. Vera, whoever wins this duel will prove themselves the most capable. The Beastmaster exam in 3 days will give me the best advantage, since it wouldn't do me any harm either way. I nodded in agreement, but with Erebus injured like this, even if he wins this match, he probably won't perform well in the Beastmaster exam. A cold laugh echoed in my heart. When the time comes, I'll just make up some excuse to disqualify him. That's what I thought to myself. In the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Erebus had won the match. Dylan conceded with effortless grace, I yield to your superior skill, but any discerning observer could tell he'd thrown the match on purpose. 6. Erebus shot him a grateful look, but as he opened his mouth to speak, blood suddenly gushed from his lips. Erebus passed out, with the Beastmaster trials approaching. I had no choice but to extract my heart's blood and feed it to Erebus. Truth be told, I was gambling. Gambling that Erebus truly meant what he said about atoning in this lifetime and wouldn't betray me again. Nourished by the essence of my heart's blood, Erebus recovered with remarkable speed. The moment our covenant was forged, Erebus gazed at me with tender intensity, his fingers interlacing with mine. Vera, I swear I'll prove worthy of your sacrifice. The Beastmaster qualification exam begins in 3 days. My sister Lena and I are taming an ancient divine beast, the vermilion bird. This fiery phoenix is notoriously untamable, far beyond ordinary Beastmaster's abilities, but we carry the bloodline of primal Beastmasters. Even our master says one of us is destined to become the true Beast Sovereign, capable of commanding all creatures under heaven. In our past life, we always believed it was my sister. Even Erebus thought the same, so after Lena got injured, he stole my inner core under the pretense of forming a contract with me, just to heal her. I only learned the truth after my death. The spiritual power flowing through my veins is the true essence of a Beastmaster. Now reborn, I've returned just before the Beastmaster qualification exam. Lena stood beside me, rosy-cheeked and fully prepared, casting a gentle smile my way. Vera, when the exam begins, you'd better give it your all. I won't go easy on you. Lena exchanged a knowing smile with her bonded beastman Alaric, their lingering gazes speaking volumes in silent understanding. My eyes instinctively darted to the distracted Alaric. The way his gaze lingered on Lena just now sent alarm bells ringing in my head. In their past lives, both he and his brother had fallen for Lena without exception, though they all mistakenly believed Lena was the real Beastmaster. But what if they knew she wasn't, and still chose to stand by her unconditionally? My brow furrowed instantly, and the gaze I fixed on Vermilion Bird carried an undercurrent of lethal intent. Should Erebus dare betray me this time, I'll slay him with my own hands. During the Beastmaster trials, Lena made the first move to tame the Vermilion Bird. To her shock, she underestimated the foe. Even with Alaric's assistance, the phoenix left her severely wounded. At the critical moment, Alaric shouted to Lena, "Lena, your blood, use it to subdue the Vermilion Bird." Lena instantly understood. She slashed her palm with a knife hand strike, drawing a crimson line as blood gushed forth. Gritting through the pain, she struck at the vermilion bird with her palm, hoping to subdue it with her blood essence. To her shock, the phoenix merely paused briefly before launching an even fiercer assault. Lena's face instantly paled. The vermilion bird's gaping maw loomed over Lena, ready to devour her whole. Without a moment's hesitation, I leapt forward and slashed my palm, flinging blood onto the vermilion bird. It happened in the blink of an eye. The once raging vermilion bird instantly became docile. It quickly crouched down, prostrating itself before me in submission. Everyone exchanged bewildered glances. They stared at me in disbelief. So Vera is the real Beastmaster. My God, is this the power of a Beastmaster? Absolutely incredible. I instinctively turned to look at Lena. Her face went pale as she stared at me in utter shock and disbelief. How is this possible? How could your blood possibly subdue the vermilion bird? I'm the real beast tamer. How could it possibly be you? Lena's always been arrogant, striving to be the best at everything. Even as a beast tamer, she's shone like a star since childhood. While I've always faded into the background, I always assumed she'd be the true beast tamer. I never intended to compete with her, only to train diligently with my bonded orc. Yet in the end, I discovered I was the true Beastmaster all along. I'm sorry, sister. I lowered my head with downcast eyes. I never imagined things would turn out this way, though Lena struggled to accept it. We were blood sisters after all, and she'd always doted on me. In the end, she came around. After the Beastmaster trials concluded, my standing within the mountain estate began to shift in remarkable ways. My master had me move out of the larger courtyard, granting me the same privileges as my elder sister. I assigned separate quarters to both Erebus and Dylan. At last they no longer have to squeeze together in one place. True to his word these past days, Erebus has been dutifully staying in my courtyard and cultivating properly. 7. It seems in this lifetime he harbored no special feelings for Lena either. I finally let out a long sigh of relief. Living out these uneventful days peacefully wasn't so bad after all. But one day, as I headed to the back mountains to gather herbs as usual, I stumbled upon Erebus and Lena in a secluded corner. Seeing the two of them standing together, my heart involuntarily gave a violent tremble. Didn't Erebus swear he'd have no contact with Lena? The two of them were alone, seemingly deep in conversation. I tried to move closer to listen, but suddenly saw Lena take a step forward and embrace Erebus. My body froze in place. Erebus, I know you've always admired me, but you must realize I'm the true beast tamer here. That worthless Vera knows nothing. How dare she possess such natural talent? My sister Lena's words pierced my ears, syllable by syllable, the same warm voice as always, yet speaking words I could scarcely believe. Like a complete stranger, she can live perfectly fine without her core, but without hers, I'll never become a beastmaster again. Erebus, please, help me, will you? Lena's voice was melodiously charming, especially when she coquettishly pleaded. She became utterly bewitching, like a little enchantress. Forget men, even I found it irresistible, yet I never imagined my doting sister could harbor such a viperous heart. Erebus stood rigid, motionless, as Lena wrapped her arms around him. My heart sank when I saw this scene. So he'd been lying to me all along. All that talk about cutting ties with Lena and never contacting him again. I'm the only one in his eyes. It's all lies. Just as I was about to kill Erebus, he suddenly shoved Lena away violently. Lena, I can't help you. Erebus' voice dripped with indifference as he gave a cold smirk. It was because I listened to you in my past life that I stole Vera's inner core, never imagining it would lead to her death. If you want to become a beastmaster, train properly instead of scheming shortcuts. As long as I'm here, you won't lay a finger on Vera. With those words, Erebus turned to leave. Only then did I realize Lena had always been worried I might actually be a beast tamer. No wonder Erebus stole my inner elixir in our past life to heal Lena. There was someone pulling the strings behind the scenes all along. What a masterstroke. Lena gasped in disbelief at Erebus's words, shouting after him, Erebus, didn't you swear you'd wait for me forever? You said you loved me, that you'd even accept being my second husband if I took you in. Were those all empty promises? Erebus never broke stride. His voice was resolute. My heart belongs to Vera alone now. Word has it Lena threw an absolute tantrum after returning. She even gave Alaric, her usual favorite, a brutal beating. You heartless wretches, have you forgotten who saved your skins back then? That precious brother of yours actually dared to defy me to my face. Does he truly think I won't kill him? Alaric was beaten black and blue, yet didn't dare utter a single sound. Not long after Erebus returned, he fell gravely ill. No one knew I'd deliberately tampered with his medicinal herbs. He's not only physically weak, but also mentally disoriented. I had Dylan stand guard at the door, went in personally to tend to Erebus. Erebus, do you still love Lena? Erebus hesitated for a long moment, nodded, then quickly shook his head. She's a wicked woman who hurt Vera. My throat tightened as I pressed on. Are you being kind to Vera now out of guilt for your past life, or because you love her? Erebus's face contorted in struggle for a long moment. Finally came the reply. Both. No matter what happens, I'll protect her. 8. Only then did I finally breathe a sigh of relief. I actually slipped some truth serum herbs into Erebus's medicinal brew. Whoever drinks it can't help but speak the truth when questioned. That day I witnessed his falling out with Lena. Seems it wasn't just an act after all. From that moment on, I let go of past grudges and wholeheartedly accepted Erebus. We trained together and shared meals. 3 days later, Lena announced her marriage to Alaric. It wasn't uncommon for beastmasters in our mountain estate to marry their bonded beastfolk partners. Had this been in a past life, I might have believed Lena truly loved Alaric. But now I suspect there's more to the story, yet I won't intervene, just observe how things unfold. Let's see what tricks my dear sister has up her sleeve. I was reading a book when Lena arrived that day. She walked in holding a wedding invitation, her smile tender. Vera, your big sister's getting married soon. You simply must come. Her eyes grew moist as she looked at me. Ever since our parents passed, it's just been the two of us sisters relying on each other. Vera, you truly wish our sister happiness too, don't you? Of course I want her to be happy. Even though she possesses everything I've ever wanted, I've never thought of competing with her, not even when I discovered my orc Erebus adored her. Upon my rebirth, my first instinct was to let her have it all. Little did I know, my sister had other plans. On their wedding day, I attended the banquet and drank a few celebratory toasts, but no sooner had I swallowed than my head grew heavy and my consciousness began to fade. When I came to again, I found myself bound and locked in the bridal chamber. Lena lifted the red veil and approached me with a knowing smile. Vera, I knew you'd come for me. My eyes locked onto the knife in her hand. What are you going to do to me? Lena dropped the act and showed her true colors. Ever since the Beastmaster trials, I've known the legacy runs in your veins. How utterly unfair fate can be. Lena traced the blade across my face with deliberate slowness. Her smile grew more sinister. But Vera, you know. Sis, ever since I was little, I've dreamed of becoming a true Beastmaster. No, I have no choice but to drain your blood and transfuse it into my own veins. My eyes flew wide open, staring in disbelief at Lena's growing madness before me. Calm down, draining my blood won't do you any good. But Lena wouldn't listen. She'd become utterly obsessed with becoming a true Beastmaster. Perhaps it's always been this way. I was just too lost in my own world and my past life to notice. Vera, considering all these years I've taken care of you, losing one life for me shouldn't be a big deal, right? Lena advanced toward me step by step, dagger in hand. The madness in her eyes grew more intense. I desperately channeled my spiritual energy, trying to summon my bonded Beastman Erebus for help, but no matter how hard I tried, my powers felt trapped, completely unresponsive. Lena burst into laughter at the sight. Save your strength. I spiked your drink. Your powers won't work now. Next, I'll make sure your spiritual power is completely destroyed. With a casual wave of her hand, she summoned Alaric from behind the folding screen. 9. Lena's eyes gleamed with mischief as she personally undressed Alaric. Now you'll serve my sister, exactly the way you've been serving me. The whole point is to disrupt her spiritual energy. We've got plenty of time. It's all up to you now. Lena decisively drew the dagger across my skin. Crimson blood welled up steadily, lounging lazily on the daybed. Lena collected my flowing blood while urging Alaric to make his move. I stared at Alaric in sheer panic, my gaze locked onto him. For us Beastmasters, maintaining pure spiritual energy requires exclusive cultivation with our bonded beast folk. No outsiders may interfere, otherwise, the spiritual energy becomes corrupted. Right now, this is exactly what Lena intends to achieve. Alaric, I snapped. Don't forget, I'm your brother's contracted master. Alaric remained completely unfazed. His eyes were lifeless and motionless, like a soulless machine or puppet. It finally dawned on me that Lena must have cast a mind control spell on him long ago, so his current actions were just mechanically obeying Lena's commands. He violently tore at my clothes with savage movements. He was about to pounce. Just as I was contemplating mutual destruction, a figure suddenly crashed through the window. It's Erebus. Without hesitation, he struck Alaric and unleashed the vermilion bird to pursue Lena. Seeing his plans foiled, Suzaku launched another fierce assault. Lena had no choice but to make a hasty escape. She shot Erebus a venomous glare over her shoulder. Just you wait, I'll make you pay for this. Erebus, his face contorted with rage, was about to strike down his own brother. I stopped him just in time. He's being controlled. Let him go. Only then did Erebus release his grip. He rushed over to untie me, checking my injuries with growing guilt and remorse. I'm sorry, Vera. I came too late. As I quietly watched Erebus in that moment, I suddenly realized he wasn't so detestable after all. I smiled. No, your timing is perfect. If he hadn't searched everywhere for me today and noticed I was missing, and rushed to my rescue in time, I might have met my end here today. I never imagined the one who truly cost me my life would be my own sister Lena. I immediately reported the full account of this matter to our master. Our master flew into a rage and vowed to expel Lena from the sect permanently. She's unworthy of being a beast tamer. True to form, Lena never returned to the mountain villa after that, but she was still my sister after all, so I discreetly inquired about her whereabouts. That day, Erebus unleashed the ancient divine beast Vermilion Bird from the celestial prison to save me. If Lena couldn't escape in time, the odds would be stacked against her. I only heard about it later, to save her own skin. Lena actually tried to sacrifice her orc Alaric to the Vermilion Bird's gaping maw, just to buy herself a chance to escape. Alaric fought the Vermilion Bird to a standstill. That's when Lena's true colors were finally revealed. Rumor has it Alaric left Lena severely wounded after that incident, and both vanished without a trace. There's been no word about them since. I continue my dedicated training at the Mountain Lodge, striving to become an exceptional beast master. Erebus always stayed quietly by my side without drawing attention. Whenever Dylan saw us together, he'd jokingly say he felt like a third wheel. Being an avid traveler at heart, he set off to explore the world as soon as his injuries fully healed. I'd often catch myself staring blankly at my book, only to find my gaze drifting unconsciously toward Erebus. He still occasionally carries that aloof, untouchable aura from his past life. 10. But when his gaze lands on me, the ice instantly melts away, revealing threads of tenderness beneath. Vera, Erebus called my name tenderly. Look, I made your favorite osmanthus cake with my own hands. Would you like to try some? Story 2. The apocalypse arrived. Others hid at home while I scavenged trash, others fought for supplies. I kept scavenging trash, while others were slashing zombies. I was still picking through garbage. Later, they jokingly called me the Apocalypse Scavenger King. Sis, what did you pick up today? The little girl next door cracked open her window and shouted at me. I shouted back, a bottle of mineral water. Then her mom, covering her nose, dragged her back inside. 1. Out of boredom, I counted my remaining food supplies again. 3 bottles of mineral water, 2 cartons of milk, a half-eaten strawberry bread, half a bag of nuts, and 1 apple. Well, it's quite nutritionally balanced. If this weren't the apocalypse, these items wouldn't last an hour. I sighed wistfully. Suddenly, the front door banged loudly. Reflexively, I grabbed a kitchen knife, then held my breath and sprayed insect repellent all over myself. The combination of insect repellent and my own stench was absolutely pungent. I covered my mouth and nose, fanning vigorously through the door crack. The zombies outside immediately moved away. Only after stripping off my clothes and throwing them by the door did I dare run to the bathroom. I was nearly suffocated. After a comfortable shower, I lay on the floor and started scrolling through my phone. Thank goodness the government still maintains water and electricity. The latest statement said that the country has dispatched several waves of troops to deal with the zombies, and some areas have already been brought under control. Seeing this, I feel motivated again. It'll be our turn soon. The next day, I went out again to scavenge for supplies. This time I need to go farther, since I've already cleared out the nearby areas. Wearing a helmet, wrapped in a coat that had been soaked in a sewer for 3 days and then dried, with wads of tissue stuffed up my nose, I set off on a salvaged bicycle. From my month-long observations, zombies have sensitive noses. They chase human scents and flee from foul odors, so I make sure to stink every day, which is my secret technique for surviving solo in the wild without getting bitten. I shared this trick with my neighbors. They ran while vomiting, and as I watched them, I started vomiting too. But human sensory thresholds can adapt. For instance, now I can step out reeking without even flinching. A zombie was approaching from afar, but before I could turn the car around, it ran away. Indeed. It's a scent even zombies dare not approach. The after effect is really strong. I traveled unimpeded from one town to another, and by noon, although there were more zombies in this town, their activity was weaker during midday. I could handle the occasional 1 or 2. I started collecting items from the town entrance while pushing my bicycle. Large supermarkets or small convenience stores aren't my first choice. I prefer bookstores, lottery shops, and small companies. Don't underestimate these places. The ability to hoard supplies is ingrained in our DNA. Every time I manage to find some snacks, it's better than nothing and provides a bit of energy. Got lucky this time. Several workstations in some company had stashes of milk and bread, while the break room was stocked with drinks, coffee, and all kinds of snacks. Thank you, my never-met brothers and sisters. You literally saved my life. With my bulging backpack strapped to my front, I just mounted my bicycle when I saw a truck coming my way, followed by a horde of zombies. Holy shit. The truck was forced to stop by zombies and was surrounded in the blink of an eye. I shakily pedaled forward, with several zombies following behind me. Passing by a trash can, I threw the bicycle aside and dumped out the garbage from the bin. Then I picked it up. Cover yourself, you, too. A trash can that hasn't been cleaned for a month. The smell is really overwhelming. The zombies recoiled several steps from the stench of the dumped garbage. One stubbornly moved forward. So I immediately lifted the trash can to fan the air. The potent odor of the bin wafted down the entire street, not to mention the few zombies here. Even several zombies near the truck have run away. The zombies surrounding me fled, and I successfully vomited into the trash can. Seeing the vomit stains on my pants, I couldn't help but throw up again. Great, now even the zombie king wouldn't dare to approach me. I was vomiting violently by the trash can. While the truck driver was fighting so fiercely he recognized no one, by the time I finished vomiting, he had finished killing. He walked toward me over a pile of zombie corpses, backlit, with a physique that was extraordinarily burly, and his head was unusually large. I must be really lucky to have encountered the Zombie King. Chapter 2, The Zombie King, my ex-boyfriend. I sat by the roadside, surrounded by trash bins and my own vomit. In front of me crouched the Zombie King. Or wait, was that a human? I tilted my head to examine his spacesuit, which I'd only seen in a certain movie before. Damn, did I just switch from a zombie flick to a sci-fi movie with one click? Celia, I looked at him in surprise. He lifted his helmet excitedly, then his smile froze, his face turned red, he ran away, and vomited. Really, not surprising at all. Looks like he just ate a red dragon fruit. I could even see the color. The more I listened and watched, the more I felt like vomiting too. So I sincerely suggested to him, how about you put on your helmet? 3. He looked at me with shock on his face. I continued with genuine sincerity, I'm afraid you might vomit all over me later. His face turned pale, and his body began to sway unsteadily. You're already this unsteady after just vomiting for a while. Your body's that weak. Meeting his shattered gaze, I finally understood. I told you to put the helmet on after vomiting, not to vomit while wearing it. After vomiting for quite a while, he finally shuffled over to me with an embarrassed look. I don't have that burden. After all, he's not the first person to vomit at the sight of me. Harlan, long time no see. Who would have thought? The first familiar face I see after returning home for a month is actually my ex-boyfriend. Who would have thought? I'm actually sitting next to a trash can saying hi to my ex-boyfriend. Can you believe it? My ex-boyfriend's first reaction upon seeing me was to vomit. Literally vomited. Earth is too crowded. Might as well let me live on Mars. When the truck parked in front of my house, multiple heads peeked out from behind the curtains of neighboring homes. The neighbor's kid opened the window a bit wider this time, for, she shouted, Sister, did you go to the dumpster to pick up trash today, which is why you brought back so much garbage? Clang, the window was closed again. I smiled at the person getting out of the car. The wind is so strong today, I can barely hear what she's saying. Harlan looked at me with a complicated expression, neither smiling nor crying, then nodded. Great, even Mars can't tolerate me anymore. Let me fly out of the solar system. I took out the alcohol hidden in the dark corner and thoroughly sprayed both him and myself 2 or 3 times. After all, dealing with garbage every day means you still need to pay attention to personal hygiene. Before opening the door, I sincerely advised him again, whatever you do, don't take off your helmet. I'm afraid you'll vomit again as soon as you step inside. With the door wide open, Harlan and I sat on small stools by the entrance, noses plugged, trying to air out that indescribable smell in the room. You had a hard time abroad. The words were spoken softly, but the knife they drove into the heart was heavy. I smiled back at him. After years abroad, I return only to scavenge through trash. Is this the degradation of morality or the extinction of humanity? Me 50, and I'll share my next grand plan. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and transferred 50,000 to me, then looked at me with eyes that held 4 parts guilt, 3 parts heartache, 2 parts sympathy, and 1 part amusement. Listening to the pleasant sound of money arriving in my account, I happily shared my plans with him. You now have 2 choices. One is to laugh, the other is to cry. Which will you choose? He chose to laugh, a laugh so earth-shattering it could move heaven and earth, a laugh so intense it brought tears streaming down his face. After laughing, he wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and said, I'm sorry. I should have come sooner. Compared to 4 years ago, the face before me has shed some of its youthful innocence, gaining a touch more maturity, though the emotions in those eyes remain unchanged. I rubbed my eyes and magnanimously declared, remove the tissue from your nose, and I'll forgive you. His expression froze. That's, perhaps, unnecessarily harsh. I burst into laughter. The anxiety that had plagued me for a month finally settled at this moment. Chapter 3, The Doomsday Town Cluster. The foul smell on the first floor had mostly dissipated. Harlan went upstairs to shower, while I stayed downstairs organizing the truckload of food and supplies he'd brought. As for why he spent a month driving a truckload of supplies across several provinces to get here, he didn't explain, and I didn't ask. We tacitly skipped any potentially awkward questions, chatting like old friends who hadn't seen each other for years. The neighbor's kid opened the window again. Sis, you stopped picking trash and started picking people now. Can you take me home then? My mom either forces me to practice piano or do math problems. When I said these are useless during the apocalypse, she actually told me to conquer zombies with piano music and math. I think a zombie bit my mom's brain through telekinesis, the kid blabbered on, completely selling out her mom. then asked, "By the way, sis, did you pick that person from the dump? That big brother is so handsome." "I want to pick one too. Can you take me with you next time you go to the dump?" Clang. Her elusive mother, who lived only to close windows, appeared again. My heart is still as water, but I didn't expect Harlan to be standing right behind me. Water droplets from the hair trickled down the cheek, over the Adam's apple, into the slightly damp shirt, across the faintly visible abs, and further down. 5. I swallowed hard and looked up to meet his teasing gaze. He removed the towel from his head and leaned in close to me. "Sis, am I someone you can just pick up from a garbage dump?" As he spoke, he leaned in closer, so close I could see the fine hairs on his face. My mind wandered a bit, and I couldn't help wondering what skincare products he used. They worked so well, not a single pore was visible. "Sis, why did you pick me up, or do you want me to repay you with my body?" My face flushed with heat, that Harlan, still as shamelessly flirty as ever. My heart swelled with emotion as I slowly raised my hand. He arched an eyebrow, and my hand trembled. A vintage 1982 rag thus landed on his freshly washed hair. "Celia, why did you divide it into so many portions? Wouldn't it be better to take what you need when you use it?" Harlan scowled while drying his hair for the second time and squatted beside me to ask, "These are all meant to be distributed to the neighbors around here." He frowned at me. "Celia, did going abroad turn you into a saint? At a time like this, can't you think about yourself for once?" I rolled my eyes at him speechlessly. "You know, I just returned to the country, right? The apocalypse happened on my very first day back. This house has nothing. If it weren't for government aid and neighbors' help, I wouldn't have survived 3 days." His hand paused while drying his hair, lowering his head as he muttered, "I should have come to get you." I grabbed the towel from his hand and continued drying his hair for him. "It's not too late now." I quickly lost patience, roughly ruffled his hair, and threw the towel back at him. "Come on, I'll add you to our town group chat." Town group chat. Someone who's been drifting around for a month clearly has no idea what this is. On the first day of the apocalypse, our town mayor created this group. Every few days, the group would spontaneously organize some able-bodied young people to go out and search for supplies. Sometimes when we had extra resources, everyone would share with families that only had the elderly, women, or children. In times like these, even a bottle of water or a piece of bread could save a life. The group also updates daily with the latest zombie sightings. There's a family in our town with a drone that patrols the area every day. Whenever zombies are spotted heading toward populated areas, warnings are immediately issued. There's also all kinds of national news updates, bartering systems, and more of the variety is incredible. Harlan listened in stunned silence, his face full of emotion. "This sounds strangely familiar." I thought about it and suddenly realized, it does feel very familiar, so I also sighed with emotion. Luckily I returned to my country, otherwise I might have died abroad on the first day of the apocalypse. Let me tell you, don't underestimate our town. Up to now, the casualties in our town are still in single digits. Chapter 4 Equipment. Thanks to Harlan's truckload of supplies, even after sharing some, we could make it last for 3 months by rationing carefully. No more scavenging alone or guarding the house solo against zombies. My nose, stuffed for a month, finally got its freedom. The neighbor stopped covering her nose and shutting her kid's window too. Sometimes I'd request a song, she'd play it there, and I'd listen here. Gaming with Harlan by day, movie nights by evening, life seems quite enjoyable. Just half a month later, he also followed the town mayor out to search for supplies. In times like these, no amount of stuff ever feels like enough. After he left, I secretly took out my treasured durian-flavored stinky tofu-scented garbage-soaked coat and resumed my garbage-collecting endeavors. Then we just stood there staring at each other at the front gate. He took a few silent steps back, staring at the trash in my hand with an indescribable expression. "Celia, pica disorder is unacceptable." 5. I couldn't be bothered with him, tossing the instant noodles I'd found at him before sitting down to sort through a bag of garbage. I used to jokingly call myself a trash picker, but in reality I only scavenged for useful items. Actual garbage was something I'd never touch except in life or death situations. But not anymore. I have a family to support now. Harlan came all this way to find me, and I can't let him lose his life here, so I decided to make him a coat that would strike fear into the hearts of zombies. After days of research, I finally crafted a coat for Harlan before his next outing with the team, a fishy, hawthorn-scented, stinky mandarin fish marinated overcoat. It was this very coat that nearly got him kicked out of the supply scavenging team, yet, thanks to it, not a single zombie came within 5 meters of him that day, and the entire team returned unscathed. I was sleeping soundly under the covers when Harlan kicked open my door and yanked me out of bed. "Wake up, we're running out of time. Get up now." The blanket was thrown to the floor, and I shivered from the cold. My mind was still foggy, but my mouth started cursing first. "Harlan, are you out of your mind?" He didn't care and wrapped me up into a ball, and it actually felt a bit hot. After what he did, I became fully awake. "What's wrong with you? Did zombies break into the house?" Check the group chat. Upon checking the group chat, I realized the first catastrophe of the apocalypse had arrived. According to the latest national news, global temperatures have dropped significantly in recent days. Experts predict a cold wave will hit within 2 days. With unknown duration and minimum temperatures, the government urges people to stay indoors unless absolutely necessary and to stock up on warm supplies, as water and power outages will occur once the cold wave hits. However, it's not all bad news. Experts unanimously agree that the cold wave will limit zombie mobility, making it the perfect time to eliminate them, a task the government will handle, while ordinary people have only one task: to survive the cold wave. Should I say I'm really lucky? The town I'm in happens to have a cotton mill, and the group is already organizing everyone to go together to move quilts and cotton. Let's go. I'll drive you there. The cotton mill has the most zombies. We'll hold them off outside while you go in to get supplies. I nodded, wrapped myself in a coat, grabbed a kitchen knife, and followed him out the door. Everyone gathered at the town entrance, but they all silently kept their distance upon seeing us. I noticed several others also had tissues stuffed in their noses like me, and they were wearing clothes from the same factory as mine. I nodded in satisfaction. It seemed they'd truly come around. Chapter 5: The Cotton Mill Crisis, Part 1. 7 or 8 vehicles formed a convoy, rumbling toward the cotton mill in a dark mass. The closer we got to the factory, the more zombies there were. Leading the way was another truck, large enough to plow through and send zombies flying. Harlan and I were driving at the rear, keeping close to the vehicle ahead. Zombie heads, arms, and legs were flying right before my eyes, scaring me into gripping the kitchen knife in my hand tighter. Although I've killed zombies before, it was only a few, and most of the time they were driven away by my stench. Facing so many zombies at once, I was genuinely terrified deep down. Harlan reached over and covered my trembling hand, speaking in a gentle and calm tone. Don't be afraid. Just focus on your task. I'll handle the zombies for you. In a daze, I seemed to see him from years ago. 6. Back then, he had said something quite similar. It's all right. Do whatever you want to do. I'll stand behind you and have your back. Thinking of this, I was so moved I nearly shed tears. Then he said, if you can't win the fight, just run away and come back later to avenge me. When I got back, I told the neighbor's kid that he was just trash I picked up from the dump. With this banter, the tense atmosphere gradually dissipated, and I even had the leisure to comment on the zombies' looks. But once the car entered the factory, the real hunting moment began. Harlan positioned the truck sideways, blocking the cotton mill's gate alongside another vehicle, while other cars backed up to the warehouse entrance for easier loading. I cracked the car window slightly, sprayed my homemade solution, and the zombies pounding on the window immediately recoiled 3 steps back, truly worthy of being my secret sour spicy brew that tipped days to perfect. Then I kept spraying while Harlan shoved a cloth soaked for days in the sour spicy solution out the window, wedging it in place to at least protect both side windows. After finishing these tasks, we got out of the car carrying the kitchen knife. Considering the stench on us, zombies rarely gathered around our area. He wielded the firewood axe with formidable force and smoothly escorted me to the warehouse entrance. Hold the kitchen knife properly. If you encounter a zombie, use it to chop its head. I've taught you at home, and you've learned everything, so don't be afraid. Understand, during this period, we haven't been idle. Knowing I hadn't killed many zombies, he set aside fixed daily time to teach me how to deliver a fatal blow to zombies. I gripped the kitchen knife tightly and nodded vigorously. You be careful. He smiled faintly and patted the helmet on my head. If you can't handle it, just call me, no matter where I am. If you call me, I'll definitely come. The men are cutting down zombies at the front while the women are moving quilts at the back. This was what we agreed on from the start. We just didn't expect the warehouse to be locked. Why didn't the people who worked at the factory before mention that the warehouse was locked? Someone complained discontentedly. I pressed against the window to peer inside. The building was pitch black, showing no signs of abnormality. After some discussion, we decided that some would break down the door while a smaller group would smash the windows. As for me, I didn't belong to either group, simply because I reeked too badly. If I got close, I'd have to break doors and windows all by myself, so I could only wander nearby quietly, occasionally using the method Harlan taught me to take down 1 or 2 stray zombies, letting the women focus on smashing without worry. As I walked, I found myself by the trash can again, rummaging through it once more. It just happened naturally, out of habit, almost involuntarily, but this time, I actually managed to find something. Holding up a keychain, I asked, do you think there might be a warehouse key here? 7. Thank heavens for our good fortune. There really was one, and the girl trying the keys opened it on her first attempt. Everyone was so immersed in joy that no one noticed the hand reaching out from the crack of the open door. Chapter 6. The Cotton Mill Crisis, Part 2. I stood by the trash can, staring blankly as the girl holding the keys was grabbed by an outstretched hand, pulled inside, and then the gate opened, with a horde of zombies pouring out. The girl was bitten on the neck, and within mere seconds, she too turned into a zombie, charging straight out. "There are zombies in the building, help, help," screams echoed around me, and my face was filled with terror. I wanted to run, but I was rooted to the spot. Watching as that girl walked toward me. Run, run. Why can't I move my arms and legs? Why? Celia, Celia, someone is calling me. It's Harlan, Harlan. I moved my lips, but couldn't make a sound. Closer, closer. Suddenly a foul wind blew by, and someone pulled me away from the trash can. Celia, Celia. Harlan pushed me into a corner, grabbing my shoulders and shaking me while shouting. A loud roar in my ears finally made me exhale the breath I'd been holding in my chest. Before I could speak, he urgently said, "Listen, none of us expected there to be zombies in the warehouse, and now is not the time to discuss this. What you need to do right now is charge out there and kill those zombies to avenge them. Do you hear me?" It was an epiphany. I looked at him and nodded firmly, forcing back my tears. After giving me a deep look, he pulled me outside and stood in front of me, hacking away at the endless stream of zombies. I retreated towards the warehouse while slashing with a kitchen knife. Quickly scanning the warehouse's situation, after confirming no zombies were present, I called the women back. "Zombies are endless. Once they catch human scent, they'll swarm from all directions. Our goal is to finish this quickly. Everyone stay alert and form a circle behind me. The stench on me keeps zombies away. If you spot any, tell me immediately. I'll handle them while you grab supplies." "Understood." Several people turned pale with fear, nodding nervously while keeping watch on their surroundings. Among them, one person seemed dazed. I recognized her. She was the younger sister of the girl who had opened the door. I walked over, looked into her eyes, and said, "Your parents are still waiting for you at home. Your sister is gone. They can't lose you too." She didn't dare wipe her tears with her hands, so she could only blink hard to clear them away. I know. Most of the zombies had run outside, leaving only a few in the warehouse. When encountering them, our group no longer panicked. Swift strikes with blades, as if venting the pain of lost loved ones upon them. Our movements grew increasingly faster until we'd cleared the entire warehouse. A man stubbornly tried heading toward another distant warehouse but was blocked by several women. We began making our way back. Harlan held my hand with one hand while decapitating the zombies approaching us. After helping me into the truck, he turned back to slash another zombie before getting in and starting the vehicle. Several vehicles drove back fully loaded, crushing zombie corpses beneath their wheels. Only now, the people inside could no longer return together as they had come. Amid the heavy silence in the truck, the phone in my pocket kept ringing incessantly. It took me a long time to swipe open the phone, only to see a flood of messages from the town's group chat. "Why didn't you tell us there's a bunch of zombies locked in the warehouse?" The warehouse was locked, and the lock was even thrown in the trash. Someone clearly did it on purpose. You knew we were going to the warehouse to get things. Why didn't you tell us in advance? 8. You're all murderers. Every single one of you. You killed my sister. Murderer, murderer. The messages were all sent by people who had just lost loved ones or friends, and no one dared to respond. The truck stopped at my doorstep, but I no longer had the strength to get out. Harlan unbuckled his seatbelt and leaned over to hug me. "Celia, cry it out. Just let it all out. Cry." "I don't think I have the right to cry. If only I had looked more carefully back then, maybe I would have seen there were still zombies in the warehouse. If only I hadn't picked up that key, then we would have definitely broken the door down. Breaking in would have kept us farther from the door, and maybe that person wouldn't have gotten bitten." She brought me water and bread before. Her smile was so lovely, with 2 little dimples on her cheeks. She even said she was planning to open a pet store, but she was right in front of me. I watched her get bitten. "It's all my fault. I caused this. I was the one who gave her the key. It's all because of me." Harlan didn't speak, just held me tightly, his hand stroking my hair gently. But I could no longer hold back and buried my face in his shoulder, sobbing. Chapter 7. The cold wave arrives. 2 days later, the cold wave came as expected. Global temperatures dropped lower day by day. Bored out of my mind, I could only spend all day curled up in Harlan's arms playing with his fingers. Ever since that day he returned, he's been following me everywhere. At first I found him annoying, but when the cold wave hit, I wished I could hold him 24 hours a day. He tightened the layers of quilts around us again, testing the temperature of my forehead with his lips. "Are you cold?" I developed a fever on the first day of the cold wave. Luckily, he had brought several boxes of medicine with him, which helped me reduce the fever that same day. If the fever had persisted until the next day, given the temperature dropping 10 degrees lower than the first day, I probably would have met my maker. After I recovered, he kept asking me if I was cold, seemingly traumatized by the whole ordeal. No. I turned over and wrapped my arms around his waist. Nuzzling into his embrace a few times, feeling somewhat drowsy, he pinched my neck to keep me from sleeping. "You won't be able to sleep again tonight, but I'm bored." The cold snap lasted only a few days before the water and power were cut off. If it were just the cold, it wouldn't be a big deal. We had electric blankets, quilts, down jackets, and all kinds of warm items. We could just stay in bed scrolling through our phones. But the power ran out, the phone automatically shut down, and the electric blanket stopped working. As time passed, even the cotton quilt and down jacket seemed to lose their warmth, so we ended up covering ourselves with every warm thing we could find. But now, it seems nothing helps anymore. I feel a bit cold, but I don't dare tell him. "Then tell me more about your experiences abroad," I replied lazily with my eyes closed. "I've told you so many times already, you might not be tired of hearing it, but I'm tired of telling it. I'm not tired of it, I could never get tired of it. Could you tell me again, please?" I was extremely sleepy and didn't want to engage with him, but he kept chattering by my ear, disturbing my peaceful sleep, so I had no choice but to humor him. "Let me sleep for a while, and I'll tell you when I wake up." He suddenly held me tight, his hands rubbing my back continuously, his lips kissing my face, ears, and lips repeatedly while trembling and begging me not to sleep. "Celia, don't sleep, don't sleep, stay with me a little longer. I'll tell you stories, I'll tell you my embarrassing stories. Okay, the government says the zombies will be eradicated, and the cold wave will end too. When that happens, I'll take you home, okay? My parents and grandparents miss you so much, they've even prepared your room, they adore you the most. Celia, you've already abandoned me once. Do you want to leave me again? I told you before, I only gave you one chance to abandon me. You've used up your chance, so I won't let you sleep. Do you hear me? 9. Hiss, it hurts. I probed my tongue forward and sure enough, it was bleeding. That damn Harlan. Why did he have to bite so hard? How am I supposed to eat anything now? I cursed him vehemently in my heart, and the words slipped out of my mouth unconsciously. Harlan, you damn dog. My voice was so soft I could barely hear it myself, yet he caught every word. He buried his head in my shoulder, his whole body trembling, the fabric gradually dampening beneath his tears as they seeped through layers of clothing, falling straight into my heart, scorching hot. The global cold wave lasted for 3 months before temperatures began to rise one day. Just as we were running out of supplies, the phone finally powered on. Harlan held his phone and stared at it for a long time, then tightly hugged me and quietly burst into tears. Celia, I want to marry you. You can't go anywhere except by my side for the rest of your life. If you dare leave me, I'll chase you to the ends of the earth. I didn't have time to process what he was saying, stretching my neck from his embrace to see the content on his phone. It read, the cold wave has receded. The zombies have been completely eradicated. National order is gradually being restored, and the government is dispatching helicopters with large quantities of supplies to all parts of the country. My frozen brain couldn't react immediately, and it wasn't until I heard the sound of helicopters outside that I began to feel a sense of reality. Are we saved? Is the apocalypse over? Harlan wiped away his tears and smiled, then grabbed my face and planted a firm kiss on it. Yes, you, Celia, me, Harlan. We all survived, safely made it through the apocalypse. Finally, it's finally over. I kissed his lips through tears. Harlan, this time neither of us abandoned the other. Extra, it has been 10 years since that sudden apocalypse. Everything seems to be getting back on track, but the Earth appears not to have fully recovered from that disaster. The lands contaminated by zombies remain barren, unable to be cultivated even 100 years later. Many parts of the world have turned into extremely cold regions, with temperatures lower than during the cold wave, making them uninhabitable for humans for extended periods. The apocalypse seems like a warning from Earth to humanity. After that, in response to the nation's call, more and more companies made great efforts to improve their technology. Unnecessary factories gradually decreased, new energy-saving materials emerged endlessly, and everyone tacitly agreed to use less water and plant more trees. The apocalypse may take our lives, but it cannot take away our creativity and execution. We may realize things belatedly, but we will never allow ourselves to perish or make matters worse. To prevent the apocalypse from coming again, to appease the Earth's anger, we will keep doing this forever and ever. 7 days after Harlan brought me home, when the Civil Affairs Bureau officially reopened, we became the first couple to register. After the apocalypse, the government set up many free psychological counseling centers. I thought I was the one between us who needed therapy, since the brutal warehouse battle gave me nightmares for days, and I only gradually recovered with his constant comfort. But unexpectedly, it was him who actually needed psychological treatment. Even after the apocalypse ended, he would still frequently ask if I was cold and anxiously listen to my heartbeat while I slept. That cold wave made him become insecure, even when I was right by his side. He would constantly check if I was still alive during those moments. Only when I held him tightly and repeatedly assured him of my presence, promising over and over that I wouldn't leave him, could he finally calm down a little. We've seen many psychologists and undergone numerous treatments, but the results were poor. 10. Eventually, I gave up. In truth, he's perfectly normal in every other aspect. It's just when it comes to me that he gets slightly anxious, but to me, this isn't really an illness. He was just terrified by what happened to me. Spending more time with him in the future will make things better. Later, I gave birth to a daughter, with his eyes and brows, and my mouth. On the day our daughter was born, he pressed his forehead against mine and cried, his tears falling drop by drop onto my face, scalding hot. Celia, you didn't abandon me, you finally stayed by my side. In that cold wave, my fading breath ultimately became his lifelong nightmare. After my parents passed away, I was left all alone. He was often afraid of losing me, and letting me go abroad had already exhausted all his self-control in this lifetime. Now with our daughter, he and I finally have a bond, finally believing that the string of this kite has always been in his hands. After our daughter was born, he wasn't as overly cautious as before. Occasionally, he'd blurt out asking if I'm cold, then awkwardly scratch his head, just like when he accidentally held my hand in our youth. Every time this happens, I would put down what I'm doing, bury myself in his embrace, and answer his question earnestly. Your body is very warm, so I'm not cold. With you, every season feels like spring. Story 2. The virus outbreak has spread chaos, and zombies roam freely, causing a global disaster. I am the only supernatural being in this catastrophe who cannot die. I handed the driver a banknote, opened the car door, and got out. Standing by the street, I looked across to see an upscale residential area. Not far from me was a bus stop where a few young people were waiting for the bus while browsing on their phones. I idly watched the traffic light across the street. It was red at the moment. Two girls waiting beside me started chatting. Why are there so many news stories about people with rabies biting others lately? My aunt's in the hospital. She says it's been packed lately. Their voices were neither too loud nor too soft, just loud enough for me to hear. I smiled meaninglessly, waiting for the last few seconds of the red light. 10 seconds. One of the girls glanced up and caught sight of something. She paused, tugging at her companion's sleeve, her voice trembling. Teresa, is that person with rabies? Teresa, the girl addressed, looked up sharply, her gaze meeting that of a person across the street, with pale, white eyes, a purplish complexion, convulsing body, and a gory, blood-drenched wound on their neck. He stumbled towards them. Teresa froze, rigidly saying, "That doesn't look like rabies, does it? It kind of reminds me of." The girls exchanged glances, and a term often seen in movies popped into their minds, zombie, as if suddenly realizing the danger. They turned and ran. I still stood there, waiting for the red light to end. 3 seconds, Tammy. I looked up, thinking I heard someone calling my name. 2 seconds. The rabid person suddenly went berserk, tackling a passerby to the ground and savagely biting into their flesh. At the same time, many similar rabid people appeared by the street. They roamed with a ghastly pallor in their eyes, searching for prey. Screams tore through the urban sky. 1 second. The light turned from red to green. Just as I stepped forward, my wrist was abruptly gripped. The grip was strong. I couldn't break free immediately. Frowning, I turned to see who had grabbed me. It was a girl. Before I could shake her off, she, without a word, pulled me towards a supermarket behind us. It was early morning, not very crowded. The girl pulled me in and immediately closed the large door, shouting to the residents trying to leave. "Why run? There are monsters outside." The residents looked at each other, suddenly hesitant to move. The girl let go of my hand, thought for a few seconds, pulled down the curtain over the door, leaned on a shelf near the door, and turned to say, "Come help, let's block the door." People then seemed to snap to their senses and came forward to help push the shelves. After some effort, the door was finally blocked. I coldly watched their actions, feeling rather displeased. A middle-aged man sitting on the ground wiped his forehead. "What's out there?" The girl replied, "Ever seen a zombie movie? It's probably that." The man's face grew even graver. Seeing that someone in the supermarket had already called the police, the girl didn't say more and walked straight towards me. Tammy. I didn't speak, just stared at her emotionlessly. Her eyes were filled with a mix of emotions, joy, shock, fear, all mingled together, unmasked. Their actions all converged into a cautious reverence typically reserved for a precious treasure. She suddenly embraced me, her voice choked with emotion. "Where have you been? We've been looking for you for so long." If I were a man, I might have suspected this to be a novel pickup line. Unfortunately, I'm a woman, and to me, her behavior seemed like a one-sided melodrama full of contrived sorrow, but I didn't show impatience. Instead, I scrutinized her face carefully to confirm it matched the photo in the document from the lab. I began slowly, "I'm sorry, I've lost my memory. I don't remember you." The girl paused for a moment, then said, "My name's Tara. Do you remember me?" I shook my head. Just as Tara was about to speak again, a scream interrupted her. A young woman suddenly collapsed on the ground, silent and still. Everyone instinctively backed away several meters. Is she infected? What if she mutates? Should we let her out now? Tara approached her, conducted a brief examination, and looked puzzled. I remember she didn't just run in here, she was already in the supermarket. There are no wounds on her body. How could she be infected? An older man interjected. Hey. Now's not the time to analyze this, let's just get her out of here, Tara firmly replied. No, if she's infected without any wounds, it means the virus could be airborne. Once we open the door, who knows if it's the virus or zombies that will come in. Find some rope, let's tie her up. It turned out Tara was right. The woman didn't mutate. Instead, she developed a scientifically inexplicable ability. She could control water. The expression on people's faces at that moment was certainly not one of joy. Events beyond comprehension unfolded one after another, puncturing people's psychological defenses. On various apps on the phone, the popularity of having supernatural abilities was even higher than that of a zombie outbreak. I sat down on a chair behind the cash register, my eyes scanning the other people in the supermarket. Compared to Tara and me, they seemed more like normal people, worried and afraid. Yet not in total despair, still waiting for a rescue from the police. Tara handed me a brightly wrapped item, which I initially declined. It's to replenish your energy. After a few seconds, I took it, tore open the package, and it was a piece of fruit candy. The sweetness of the strawberry-flavored candy quickly spread across my taste buds, pausing my movements in surprise. This was your favorite, Tara said cautiously. I didn't listen closely to what she said, biting into the candy. Relishing a flavor I hadn't tasted in a long time, suddenly, a broadcast outside began to play. Please stay indoors, do not go outside, lock your doors and windows, and wait for rescue. The cold, mechanical female voice echoed repeatedly, giving a few people in the supermarket a sigh of relief, and so, they waited until evening. The police hadn't arrived, and people slowly started to realize something was amiss and began to complain. I wasn't too worried, even if the police didn't show up. Tara's brother would come to rescue her. I walked to the shelf and grabbed the last packet of fruit candy. Suddenly, my sleeve was tugged. It was a little boy. Give it to me. I looked him over, seemingly amused, and scoffed. No, the little boy's face changed, and he suddenly burst into tears. His cries were so piercing that the supermarket doors shook twice, likely hit by monsters outside. A middle-aged woman rushed over to console him, saying, "Don't cry, Tycho." The boy pointed at me and demanded, "I want candy." All eyes turned to me as a middle-aged man frowned and said, "He's just a child, give him the candy." Yeah, crying isn't solving anything. Are those zombies going to break in? Just give the candy to the child. I crossed my arms and remained silent. Tara walked over, assessed the situation, and scolded the woman, "Control your child. Do you want the zombies to break in and kill us?" Strangely, everyone around stopped talking and instead looked at the woman with reproachful eyes. I bent down, shook the bag of candy, and whispered in the boy's ear, "Cry again, and I'll throw you out to feed the zombies." The crying stopped abruptly. Children often have keen instincts, and he knew I wasn't joking. I really did feel like killing him. Although the boy's crying had stopped, the creatures outside seemed determined to break in, continuously slamming against the door. Through the shelves and curtains, one could faintly see the blood and flesh smeared on the glass door. Occasionally, chilling roars could be heard. During the day, the zombies merely wandered nearby, so the people inside the supermarket briefly let their guard down. But now, the constant pounding seemed to mock their foolish and naive thoughts. People in the supermarket pressed against the shelves, fearing they would break through. The zombies seemed unusually energetic, pounding until the wee hours of the night, only quieting down at dawn. Sunlight filtered through the glass and curtains, and I moved to the shadows, ready to sleep. A middle-aged man nearby peered out the window and muttered, "It seems there are fewer monsters." No sooner had he spoken than a grotesquely deformed face pressed against the glass with a roar, causing him to scream and fall to the ground. The noise continued, and I frowned. How many times have I said not to open the curtains? It was Tara's voice. Then, the supermarket fell into a deathly silence. I was awakened by gunfire. An armored vehicle fired continuously, killing one zombie after another. The authorities are now allowing the killing of the infected, I thought casually. It seemed the situation outside was worse than I expected. A few people in the supermarket cheered, pushed the shelves aside, and welcomed the dawn. With a clang, the door was pushed open, and someone hurried in. The golden sunlight bathed him, his back to the light, so I couldn't see his face clearly. He paused for a moment, then took a few steps forward, stepping into the shadow. I finally saw him clearly, his features sharp, his expression stern. His lips tightly pursed as if restraining some emotion. Even in such circumstances, his uniform was neatly worn, his figure tall and sturdy, appearing strong and dependable. People in the supermarket looked at him as if he were a savior, but I didn't like him much. He exuded everything I detested, an air of superiority. At that moment, Another person in uniform hurried over and whispered something in his ear. He said, "Take the rest of the people and go for the rendezvous." Then he turned, his gaze piercing straight toward me. I thought he was going to say something, but he didn't. He just said, "Follow me," and turned to leave. Tara pulled me into the car and pointed to the man in the driver's seat. "My brother, Brooke. We grew up together, remember?" I shook my head. "I don't remember." Tara sighed in disappointment, seemingly coming to terms with the fact that I had lost my memory, turning her head. Tara finally became curious about the situation outside. "What exactly are these things? Have they been dealt with?" Brooke's voice was as indifferent as his expression. "Infected, not resolved," Tara exclaimed in surprise. "So, they really are zombies. The cause of the outbreak is unknown, but it's confirmed that the transmission methods include bodily fluids, blood, and from mother to child. After being infected by them, it only takes a minute to mutate." He seemed to hesitate for a moment before finally referring to the condition as mutation. I knew he had more to say. It wasn't just through these means of transmission that help would be arriving now. Tara finally started to get anxious. "Bro, where are we going?" "Home. The central authorities have set up an emergency shelter nearby." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly furrowed his brows, sweat appeared on his forehead, and he gripped the steering wheel tightly. In a moment, he abruptly hit the brakes. "Bro, what's wrong?" the middle-aged man in the back suddenly said. "Could it be that he's mutated?" Silence fell in the car like death. Everyone else had been sent by Brooke on a mission, and on this dangerous highway, he was the only one who could lead them to safety. But now, this only source of safety might become the greatest danger. The man widened his eyes, watching Brooke curl up in pain, urgently saying, "Let him out of the car, otherwise, we're all doomed." Tara blurted out, "No." But she quickly realized that if Brooke had mutated, for the safety of everyone in the car, he had to get out, yet letting him out now would be like sentencing him to death. Tara was a decisive person, as I had observed since yesterday, but now, she grabbed me, her eyes reddening. "Tammy, what should we do?" I casually said. "Don't worry, everyone has to die someday." Tara froze, staring straight at me. I rarely felt a twinge of guilt. Although my approach to this brother and sister duo had never been entirely benign. "He hasn't mutated," I said. Looking at the passenger seat, "Switch places with me." I moved to the passenger seat and saw Brooke's left hand still resting on the door. He must have wanted to open it and get out, fearing that he might actually infect us if he mutated. Unfortunately, the pain overpowered all his strength, and he couldn't open the door. Brooke lay with his eyes closed on the steering wheel, showing no reaction other than breathing. I watched for a while, then turned his head and popped a piece of hard candy into his mouth. It was the last one I gave him. Such a waste. Tara's expression was indescribable. "Tammy, that's just candy." She must have thought I lost my mind. I ignored her, just watching Brooke, but no reaction came after a long wait. Was the candy a waste? I felt somewhat unwilling to give up, leaning in to see if I could read something from his face. Brooke's hot breath spilled on my face. As I got closer, I spotted a hint of the familiar that I hadn't seen in ages. Just as I was about to get even closer to confirm whether this familiarity was just an illusion, Brooke opened his eyes. They were cold, deep, and dangerous like the ocean depths. I was too close, close enough to see my own reflection in the dark pupils of his eyes. Brooke stared at me intently, like a hunter eyeing his prey, his eyes seemingly filled with ice, hiding all emotions beneath this icy layer. Indeed, he was the type of person I disliked. I slowly leaned back into the seat, creating distance between Brooke and myself. Brooke watched me as he slowly crunched a sugar cube in his mouth, the cracking sound resembling the crushing of my bones. "Bro, what's wrong?" Brooke swallowed the sugar cube and took a deep breath. "It's nothing." He didn't elaborate further and started the car. What just happened seemed like a false alarm, yet no one in the car dared relax their nerves taut until we reached the shelter. Outside the temporary shelter were newly erected high walls, looking very sturdy. We drove through the first gate, where residents' vehicles were parked, but Brooke was driving a military vehicle, so he smoothly proceeded to the second gate. It wasn't until we passed the third layer that he finally stopped. "Get out." The people inside the car looked at the scene outside before slowly opening the doors. At the entrance of the third layer, there was a long queue. Men were directed to a room on the left, and women to the right. I glanced around and guessed they were checking for wounds to determine if anyone was infected. Suddenly, a man was dragged out shouting. The officer dragging him saw Brooke and approached. "Sir, we found a wound, but the man shouted, I'm not infected." "That's not it." He waved his arms, revealing a long, dark-edged wound. He was infected. Perhaps because it was the early days of the apocalypse, many still harbored hope and reluctance, like the officer who hesitated to shoot a man. The man's eyes began to whiten as he struggled to grab the officer's arm, and a scream echoed from the crowd. Bang! A gunshot. The man fell to the ground, his expression frozen in terror. Brooke holstered his gun, his expression indifferent. "Burn it immediately. Do not directly touch his body or blood." Also, he looked at the officer. If an infected person is found inside the shelter, shoot to kill immediately. The officer's face showed a mix of emotions, but he still responded, "Yes, sir." After passing the inspection, Brooke took me and Tara back to their home, in the military compound. Brooke led us to a villa. A wave of familiarity hit me, a familiar scene flashing by. Before I could ponder it, Tara took my hand and walked inside. "Tara, you're back." You, a middle-aged woman, seemingly the housekeeper, approached us. Her gaze fixed on me, tears welling up. "Tammy, after all the chaos, I learned that this middle-aged woman, known as Aunt Sylvia, had worked for Brooke's family for 20 years. Growing up, I watched Brooke's siblings and Tammy grow up together. Aunt Sylvia seemed to have accepted the fact that I had lost my memory, simply stating, 'It's good that you're back.' Before she went off to cook for us, sitting on the sofa, I ventured cautiously, 'Tammy, who exactly is she?' Seeing my interest, Tara quickly leaned in and explained, 'Your parents were always busy with work, and our families were neighbors, so you spent over half the year living at our place. We grew up together and even planned to apply to the same university, but then you disappeared suddenly when you were 17. She paused, adding, "That was when something went wrong at the lab where your parents worked, and we couldn't find you anywhere." "Do you really not remember?" Tara whispered close to my ear. "You had a crush on my brother back then." I forced a smile, confirming to myself that I couldn't possibly be Tammy, like I'd ever fall for Brooke. After dinner, which Brooke didn't join us for as he seemed to have urgent matters, Tara continued to recount stories about Tammy in an attempt to jog my memory. She had just recalled an incident from when we were 5 years old, insisting on calling Brooke Mom, when suddenly, she staggered and collapsed on the sofa. Aunt Sylvia gasped and reached for the phone to call Brooke, touching Tara's forehead. I reassured, "No need, she's fine." Seeing Aunt Sylvia's puzzled look, I clarified, "It's just a fever, Aunt Sylvia," and I carried Tara to her bedroom, and while Aunt Sylvia went to fetch some medicine, I sat by the bed, gazing out at the clear blue sky. Suddenly, a bolt of white lightning streaked across the sky, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. I frowned, feeling uneasy. As Aunt Sylvia entered with the medicine and hot water, she muttered, "What a calamity, thunder in broad daylight." I bowed my head, remaining silent. When Tara woke up around 6 in the evening, her voice was hoarse. "Water." Before I could hand her the glass, the cup on the bedside table seemed to float through the air, moving towards Tara. Her expression was more terrified than mine. With a jolt, she sat up, her frailty replaced by alarm, and screamed. I closed my eyes in resignation. Stumbling over her words, Tara exclaimed, "Tammy, I saw a ghost." The cup, as if losing its support, crashed to the floor. Later, after Brooke returned, he described a series of unscientific, unnatural, and paranormal phenomena. It took Tara a while to accept that she hadn't seen a ghost but that her psychic abilities had awakened. She was somewhat distraught. "This is worse than seeing a ghost." Brooke had awakened his abilities in the car. The thunderbolt earlier was his doing, within the shelter. Others were also awakening abilities, mostly those involving control over the elemental forces. I listened absently until a phrase caught my attention. "The Central Authority has decided to assemble those with abilities, establishing a Special Operations Division." I abruptly interjected, "The Operations Division, who does it report to?" Brooke turned to look at me, replying, "It's under ZY. But specific operations are decided internally." I nodded. It seemed Brooke would be the head of this Special Operations Division. An official organization with significant autonomy and power should be able to quickly locate the people I was searching for. However, only those with special abilities can enter. I fell ill too. When I woke up, I discovered that my awakened ability was related to physical strength. Tara and I both joined the Special Operations Division and were assigned to the same team before our first official mission. Brooke put us through rigorous training. After running 10 laps around the shelter, we took a brief rest. As we passed the second-level gate, Tara greeted the soldier on duty. The soldier smiled kindly and saluted, but in the next second, his expression turned strange, his forehead veined with blue, his pupils slowly swallowed by the whites of his eyes, his body contorting in spasms. He suddenly mutated. This was a common occurrence inside the shelter. Even without wounds or direct contact with the source of infection, people could still suddenly turn. One moment someone was talking beside you, and the next, they could transform into a monster craving human flesh. This was a major headache for the authorities, and they were completely at a loss. Just like now, I clearly saw Brooke's furrowed brows and tightly pursed lips, indicating his extreme reluctance. Still, he deftly pulled out a gun and ended the man's life. Brooke didn't use his special ability but instead always used firearms to kill them. I think he was resisting the blurring line between those with abilities and zombies, choosing to kill them in a human way. Brooke reholstered his gun and looked away from the body on the ground. He instructed those around him, recheck the health status of everyone in the shelter, and immediately isolate anyone who has been in close contact with him over the past week, under Brooke's leadership. The shelter evolved in a chaotic yet orderly manner. Every decision was a matter of life and death for humanity. By that time, no one was taking chances anymore. When those protecting them fell, when blood stained the ground, when the death toll rose daily, all signs pointed to one outcome: humanity was on the brink of extinction. After half a month of intensive training, our team was the first to be dispatched on a mission. Before we left, Aunt Sylvia cried, fearing we might not return. Tara comforted her for a long time. As I boarded the vehicle, I caught a glimpse of a dark shadow out of the corner of my eye and turned to look. Then I casually got into the vehicle. Our team's mission was to rescue residents from 2 neighborhoods and scavenge nearby supplies. The shelter was running out of supplies, and the cultivation of rice, fruits, and vegetables required a growth period, which couldn't meet the shelter's needs in the short term. The authorities noted that zombies were slower during the day and less aggressive, so our missions were always conducted in daylight. Our team of 30 split into 2 groups. 15 went to rescue residents in the neighborhoods, and the other 15 searched nearby stores and factories for supplies. The 15 were further divided into 3 groups, one of which went to a nearby supermarket to gather supplies. Tara and I were in this group. We acted quickly and coordinated well, dealing with the wandering zombies before entering the supermarket. It was a fairly large supermarket, which had obviously seen better days. Its glass doors were shattered, and broken glass covered the floor. A crunching sound, the noise of stepping on broken glass, was jarringly loud in the empty, quiet supermarket. A horrific growl came from behind a shelf, and a grotesque zombie lunged at us. Tara's pupils contracted as she instinctively shouted, "Stop!" The zombie froze in place, but she couldn't hold it long, and the other 2 with abilities quickly used theirs to deal with the zombie. The zombie was soon consumed by fierce flames, leaving only a skeleton on the ground, quickly extinguished by a stream of water. The fire-wielding ability user was named Susie, and the water-wielding one was Stella, because their abilities complemented each other. They were the closest of the group. Tara stayed close to me, which left the 5th member of our group feeling somewhat isolated. She was a girl, an ice-powered mutant, whose beauty strikingly contrasted her abilities. Stacy appeared completely unaware as she smiled amiably. "I'm going to grab some supplies." Glancing at the door, I told Tara, "Let's split up. I'll head over there." After the other 4 had collected their items, I asked them to wait for me in the car. Leaning against the shelf with a bag of candy in hand, I watched as a small figure slowly emerged. It was the little boy who had fought with me over candy in the supermarket. He had sneaked into the car and followed us all the way here. I wasn't sure if his naive foolishness made him fearless, or if he believed that mutants would protect him, but it didn't matter anymore. I smiled and shook the candy bag. "Mine." The little boy pouted and, using the same old trick, burst into tears, as expected. This attracted the zombies. The zombies clambered over the window frames, devoid of glass, trembling as they approached us. The little boy looked at me mockingly, confident that I would give in. That look was all too familiar, just like his father's, haughty, indifferent, and with undisguised malice. I pocketed the candy, squatted down, and said to him with a smile, "Stand here, don't make a sound, and don't move." He seemed about to raise his hand, but in the next moment, his eyes widened in terror. Frozen, I picked up some supplies nearby and walked away. The zombies brushed past me, their eyes seemingly fixed only on the little boy. Before I even left the supermarket, I could clearly hear the sounds of gnawing behind me. No screams, no cries. Such a well-behaved boy indeed. 20, 30, I approached a heavily guarded villa. This was the residence of the researchers from the lab, who had been taken since the early days of the virus outbreak to develop a vaccine. Hailed as humanity's hope, a man hurriedly opened the villa door and stepped out. I said, "Dear Smith." The man turned around, his expression shocked upon seeing my face. "You," I softened my voice. "Tycho sent me to find you, dear." Smith's expression slowly turned dull and sluggish. He muttered, "Is that so? Take me to him, please." I drove him in the car. We left the base and arrived at the supermarket. The zombies, stirred by the noise for a moment, soon ceased their commotion as if sensing something. I turned off the car lights and looked at the passenger seat. "When the virus broke out, I was just about to kill you." His expression turned to one of terror. "Unfortunately for you, you were lucky once, but your son was unlucky to have met me at the supermarket." I smiled. "He had the same disgusting look as you." I led him out of the car and into the supermarket. "Your son died here." I tilted my head towards the spot where some bloodstains and bones still remained. "Dear." Smith's throat emitted a severe choking sound, as if he couldn't bear it. He knelt on the ground. "Human beings are strange creatures," I remarked as I savored his agony. "So loving towards their own children, yet so cruel towards others." He shook his head in agony, struggling to squeeze out a few words. I was wrong, Zhang. Dying from your own research, you must be very pleased." I bent down, met his eyes, and said, "You won't be alone." Brian, they'll soon turn into monsters to keep you company. In the cold, pale research facility, blood-stained dissection tables bore the weight of a locked-up girl, her fresh blood drawn out tube by tube. Subjected to relentless inhumane experiments, she became a monster, in times more terrifying than death. She survived on the nourishment of hatred. Zombies flooded into the supermarket, growling as they approached the man. I heard his agonized screams. Since they refused to continue with the experiments, let their daughter be the subject. I saw his flesh being torn apart. She is a failed experiment. I watched him wriggle, trying to escape the dreadful horde of corpses. Subject number 1, confirmed destroyed. Warning, subject number 1 has escaped. This subject is highly aggressive and dangerous. If seen, kill on sight. The frenzied zombies before me seemed to transform into lab technicians in white coats. And the one being stabbed was not Dr. Smith, but me. I couldn't help but tremble, stepping back twice. A burst of white light suddenly flashed, shattering the zombie before me. Lightning, carrying sparks, devoured the life of the zombies, just like the electric currents of lab instruments coursing through a body, bringing waves of pain. Pale-faced, I looked up to see a tall figure at the supermarket entrance. It was Brooke. He was alone. Had he found out? If he knew, would he still give me a chance to approach? Maybe I should take advantage of the solitude and just, before I could finish the thought, another bolt of lightning streaked by, reducing the number of zombies inside by a third. Brooke ran over, grabbed my hand, and we dashed outside, but as more zombies appeared, his powers began to drain, yet he didn't retreat or look back. Always shielding me, I watched him gasping heavily, killing one zombie after another. Tammy, he had probably never been this disheveled. I'll count to 1, then run forward and don't look back, understand? I suddenly looked up. As Brooke dealt with the frenzied zombies, he repeated, got it, run forward, don't look back. With a loud boom, the storm outside raged, and a flash of lightning briefly illuminated my bloodless face. Suddenly, I gripped Brooke's arm tightly and ran with him out of the supermarket. Surprisingly, the group of zombies didn't pursue us but stood dazed, clearing a path for us. We ran swiftly, leaving the blurry, bloody scene behind us, leaving monster after monster behind. After getting into the car, I gasped for air, trembling as I looked at Brooke. Memories that had been shrouded in a thick fog in my mind finally struggled to the surface, tearing through the fog, appearing cruelly clear before my eyes. I almost killed him. I almost killed Brooke, unable to control the turmoil of pain any longer. I bowed my head and spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. For years ago, Tara had taken a day off, and my parents were nowhere to be seen. I walked slowly along the roadside alone with my backpack. A street vendor was selling sugar figurines. I took a casual interest but inadvertently noticed someone seemed to be watching me from behind. I glanced back and the person had disappeared again. It felt strange. I continued walking, but the unsettling feeling of being watched lingered. Anxiety crept over me, and I hurriedly took a cab home. Even after getting out of the cab, the feeling hadn't faded. Fear spread through me like a tide, and in my panic, I ran forward, bumping into someone. I looked up, relief washing over me as I exclaimed, "Bro." Brooke studied me. "What's wrong?" In a low voice, I replied, "I feel like someone is following me." Brooke looked ahead, his expression turning cold. "Indeed there is." Startled, I asked, "What should we do?" "Call the police." Brooke patted my head. "There's a guard ahead. Go get him, and you." "I'll check it out first, to make sure he doesn't get away." I felt uneasy. "Let's go to the guard together." Brooke smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry, he can't beat me. Remember, keep running forward. Don't look back." I ran as hard as I could but couldn't help turning back. All I saw was Brooke's fading silhouette after the man was caught. He denied everything and the police had to let him go eventually, so Brooke started picking up me and Tara from school every day. A month later, he had to go to the neighboring city, so he arranged for a driver to ensure our safety. Life seemed to suddenly calm down, until one day, I received a text from my dad asking me to visit their research institute. Although puzzled, I was somewhat excited and left without calling Brooke's family's driver, opting for a taxi instead. Before leaving, I hesitated, wondering whether to send Brooke a message. He was returning to City B tomorrow, which was also his birthday. I'll talk to him tomorrow. It was just a trip to the institute. When Brooke returned tomorrow, Tara and I had already prepared his birthday gift. I didn't want to spoil the surprise. I wondered if he'd like it. Upon arriving at the institute, I was led into a glass room and then heard the sound of the door locking. A man with sharp, angular eyes stood outside the glass, sighing. "The project is only halfway done, and you refuse to continue. I had to bring your daughter here." A chill ran down my spine as I turned towards where the man was looking. In the shadows, 2 figures sat. "Dad, Mom." I rushed towards them, but they looked off, their skin pale and eyes white, their bodies trembling. Suddenly, my dad lunged forward, biting my neck. Blood spilled, but he seemed to snap back to reality and released me. A weak, choking sound came from him as he stammered, "Tammy." I'm sorry, my mom, seemingly afraid to come close, sat in the corner, sobbing helplessly. She whispered weakly, "Run, run fast." With a pained cry, she pulled out a shard of glass and slashed my dad's neck, blood sprayed, covering my face. I still hadn't grasped what was happening. Then she took the glass shard and, without hesitation, slit her own artery. I didn't even have time to scream. The expression on the middle-aged man outside gradually darkened. He cursed under his breath, suddenly. As if he had discovered something, he stared at me with fervor. Then he uttered the words that would start my lifelong nightmare. You're not infected." I opened my eyes, staring blankly at the ceiling. For years of torment had taken away parts of my memory, and as they returned, the depths of my mind throbbed like the prick of a needle. "Tammy." It was Tara. Her eyes were red and she looked at me pitifully. "I thought you were going to disappear again." I curved the corners of my lips, giving her a familiar smile. "I'm fine." Tara, seeing the smile, reacted as if she had seen a ghost, excitedly said, You remember?" I nodded. She hugged me tightly, chattering excitedly in my ear. Eventually, it all boiled down to one phrase, "It's good you're back." It wasn't long before Brooke arrived, and Tara tactfully left the room. I sat up, hesitated for a while, and then said, "Bro." Brooke sat down beside the bed and patted my head. It was only then that I could confirm. He was Brooke, and I was Tammy. After losing my memory, I had seen classified information at the Institute, about to be destroyed. Tara's data was all there, indicating that Brian had once targeted her but had to let go. With an inquisitive mind, I read through that document twice. I concluded that because of her father and brother, who held high positions and were not to be trifled with, I recognized Tara as the girl from the data the first time we met during the outbreak of the virus. Knowing she had a powerful brother, if I could get close to these two, I could kill that group of researchers faster. Of course, I couldn't tell Brooke any of this. I was tricked into going to the lab. They experimented on me. Later, when the virus leaked, I took the chance to escape. I murmured, "Bro." I was so scared. The sound of fabric rubbing echoed as he gently hugged me. "It's okay now. No one can hurt you anymore." In his embrace, I felt an illusion, as if everything truly was over. And no one could hurt me anymore. After a long time, he asked, "How did you and Dr. Smith end up at the supermarket?" I stiffened momentarily, and after a while, replied, "His son. He was left behind at the supermarket. I went to help him." Brooke probably wouldn't believe it, but he would convince himself, unless he wanted to see the newly returned Tammy die in front of him, returning home. Aunt Sylvia was very happy. To me, she was like a second mother, and her happiness made me happy too. Aunt Sylvia cheerfully said, "I'll make Tammy's favorite sweet and sour ribs. You've gotten so thin these past few days." She had just turned around when her body suddenly twitched. Sensing something, I stared at her back, frozen in place. Aunt Sylvia slowly turned around, her eyes white, her face purple, no longer looking human. Tara screamed. At the same time, a gunshot rang out. Bang, blood and a body hit the floor. I looked at Brooke. He retracted the gun and picked up his phone to immediately arrange for someone to handle the body. It was as if Aunt Sylvia hadn't died. The person who had taken care of him for 20 years, a familiar shiver enveloped me, as if wrapped in ice. I stood frozen in place. If Brooke could kill Aunt Sylvia without hesitation, what about me? Could I too be discarded by him, becoming a corpse on the ground, watching him indifferently as someone else dealt with the body? Perhaps I had made a mistake. The central government established 10 shelters nationwide, each accommodating at least 200 individuals with special abilities. After integration and training, the shelters were officially renamed as human bases, divided into 2 major bases in the north and south, with 5 smaller bases each in the north and south. The main base in the south was in G City, and in the north, B City. On the same day, Brooke declared that he would not use large-scale thermal weapons to completely eradicate the zombies. This caused a stir among the people. The official explanation was that after research, zombification was reversible, and with enough time to develop a vaccine, the infected could be cured. This should have been good news, but it led to conflicts among those with special abilities. Inside the Special Operations Hall, we have weapons, yet we're expected to fight with our lives. I'm not doing this. How long will it take to develop the vaccine? If it's going to take 10 or 20 years, we might as well use thermal weapons. We're risking our lives every day for these ordinary people. We've become their nannies and bodyguards. We are individuals with special abilities. Not Iron Man. Why not use the weapons we have? Brooke's face was stern as his gaze swept over these individuals with special abilities. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning split the table in front of him. The complaints abruptly stopped. Brooke pointed to the regulations for individuals with special abilities hanging on the wall. The first rule of the regulations is to unconditionally obey the orders of superiors. If you're dissatisfied, you can leave. The previously chattering crowd went silent. their faces turning ashen. The atmosphere was tense, but one person was an exception. I glanced at Stacy in the corner. She seemed to notice my gaze and smiled at me. After the meeting, Stacy approached me. That day, I was at the supermarket too. I paused mid-step. Don't look at me like that. I mean no harm. I stared at her coldly. Stacy smiled casually. What you want to know might be with Brooke. Then, she said no more. Brushing past me and handing me a piece of candy as she left with a few others, I lowered my head, clutching the candy in my hand. Of course, I knew the information might be with Brooke, I just lacked a little courage to verify it. I hesitated for only 2 seconds before pushing open the door to Brooke's study. When I got home, after a long search, I finally found the document I needed. The first page bore the name, Brian. Flipping through, familiar faces appeared before my eyes, suddenly. Footsteps sounded outside the study. I quickly stashed the documents back in their place and turned around with a natural smile as Brooke entered. Brooke seemed somewhat surprised. Tammy, what are you doing here? I stepped forward, softly saying, Brother, I missed you. Brooke's breath hitched. Then, he turned his head. I've been a bit busy recently, but it'll get better after this period. Brooke walked over to the desk and asked casually, Are you close with Stacy? I lowered my eyelids and replied, We share a candy's worth of friendship. I pulled out a piece of fruit candy. She gave this to me today. Ever since I was treated like a test subject, I had lost my sense of taste. But that day in the supermarket, when I took the candy Tara gave me and put it in my mouth, I unexpectedly felt the long-lost sensation of taste, the sweetness. Brooke stared at the candy and said slowly, She's dangerous. It's best to keep your distance. I nodded without questioning. The phone rang, and Brooke answered it, seemingly giving orders not to use weapons of mass destruction on the other end. I watched his serious expression, his sharp eyes. Choosing not to use firearms to handle zombies was indeed a merciful yet cruel decision. As superhumans gradually revealed their ambitions and greed, it became impossible for them to coexist with ordinary people. What they wanted were privileges. This was our third mission. We brought back more than 10 survivors from a residential building. On the way back, Susie said, Did you all see that? Stella nodded. That man, he ate his own son. What's more helpless was that he had just awakened his superhuman abilities, Susie said disdainfully. This kind of person doesn't even go to jail, yet we have to work with him, in this apocalyptic world, where laws had lost their effect. Even if someone truly committed murder, there was no time to care, however. Superhumans were a rare existence. Once their abilities awakened, they would receive special protection and training from the authorities. Susie asked, What do you think, Stacy? Not long ago, Susie and Stacy were not close, but now she seemed to regard her as a guiding light, consulting her on everything. Stacy still smiled, responding lightly. If it were before the zombie outbreak, he indeed would be a terrible person, but now, in these end times, only those who are valuable can survive. Whether they are good or bad, in the 7th month of the apocalypse, the Special Operations Division sparked a collective rebellion. It started when Group 2 encountered a horde of zombies during a mission, resulting in 1 death and 5 injuries. Some superhumans within the Special Operations officially protested, demanding the removal of Brooke's leadership position. 137 superhumans participated in the formal protest. Not just against Brooke but also refusing to obey other leaders, who had no superpowers. Ordinary people without powers giving orders to superhumans to risk their lives seemed laughable and absurd to them. This blade finally turned against its master in the 7th month. In the cold, stark hall, Brooke stood. By joining the Special Operations Division, the government provides you with resources like food, clothing, and shelter in exchange for your unconditional compliance with the superhuman system. Even today, the government still provides you with better resources than ordinary people, yet now you wish to back out. His gaze was icy as his hand rested lightly on the gun at his waist. You think that having superpowers makes you superior, allowing you to disregard their deaths. The dark muzzle pointed at the head of a man sitting in the first row. But you all forget, who provides for your basic needs now. Without those ordinary people you disdain, do you noble superhumans intend to farm and weave, bang, blood and brain matter scattered? If you prefer to communicate through violence, then let it be as you wish. Brooke holstered his gun and smiled indifferently. The prison is almost ready. Who wants to take a look? In this apocalyptic world, legal statutes were like waste paper. Only overwhelming force could solve problems, indeed. For these superhumans, violence was the most effective tool. I looked at Stacy sitting in the corner. It seemed she even managed to smile. After the meeting, I followed her quietly. As she entered a room, I quickly hid in the adjacent conference room. Thanks to 4 years of experiments, my hearing was exceptionally sharp. There seemed to be quite a few people in the next room. What's the rush? Not having to deal with zombies is a good thing. It was Stacy's voice, because of the zombies. Ordinary people live in constant fear and seek shelter. Stacy's voice carried a hint of amusement. This is another way out Officer Brooke has given us. Today is Tara's birthday, and mine is just a day after hers. I went to the factory and supermarket to gather all the necessary ingredients to make her a chocolate cake. In the evening, Brooke managed to find some time to celebrate her birthday with her. Tara looked delighted as she saw the cake, her eyes twinkling like stars. She closed her eyes and made a wish. After making her wish, she somehow produced several bottles of wine, insisting on drinking to her heart's content. Tara hadn't been this happy in a long time, and Brooke didn't object. Unfortunately, despite her spirited declaration, she wasn't much of a drinker. She got drunk and hugged me, saying she'd wait until midnight to celebrate my birthday. I patted her on the back. Happy birthday, Tara. Tara paused for a second, her tone gentle. We all need to be happy. Brooke carried her back to her room, then returned to the living room. The clock hand slowly moved towards 12. Tammy, happy birthday. Brooke placed a necklace around my neck. I looked down, picking up the necklace. It was a moon, a gentle, bright moon. The special operations team's plan was leaked. During a mission, we were ambushed by an organization labeled as reactionary, and our supplies were stolen. Tara, Susie, Stella, Stacy, and a few other special ability users went to another district. The 10 of us remaining were trapped inside a hospital, scattered in the chaos. I clutched my gun, dodged a bullet, and dragged someone nearby into a storeroom. Outside, the sounds of footsteps and gunfire mixed with the use of special abilities continued. The young man next to me had his face covered in blood mixed with tears. My sister is still out there. I have to go out. Going out meant certain death, but I didn't stop him. Perhaps in this apocalypse, death had lost its significance. For some, death was a release, but I couldn't die yet. Those people were still alive. I couldn't die. I moved a box aside, opened the window, and looked down. 5th floor. With my current physical condition, I probably wouldn't die from the fall. I closed my eyes and jumped. In this operation, 9 people from my group died. 9 deaths might not seem significant in the apocalypse, but for special ability users, it was a major incident. There must be a traitor. Tammy, how did you survive? I was the only one from that group who made it back alive. Faced with suspicion, I simply said, what else? Should I have died out there? That only made the accuser more convinced there was something wrong with me, sparking a fierce argument. Eventually, Brooke interrupted the argument. I don't want to hear baseless speculations. Bring evidence if you have suspicions, he said before swiftly changing the topic. There's an important mission from the higher-ups. We need to retrieve a key individual from City A. Brooke called out a few names, assigning them to the task. Brooke stated unequivocally, he is a high-priority asset and must not be harmed. After the team headed to City A, Brooke began to investigate potential traitors within their ranks and dealt with a few using decisive, severe measures. 2 days later, I waited not far from the entrance of the base. Several individuals with special abilities got out of the vehicle. I approached and said, Officer Brooke sent me to pick up the person. You guys can head back now. My close relationship with Brooke was well known to them, so without much thought, they nodded and departed. Once they were gone, I turned to Brian, who stood there, his expression one of terror. It's been a long time, I said. Brian looked furious and distraught. He was unable to move or speak. Just as I was about to step forward, a hand landed on my shoulder. A familiar presence loomed behind me. Shadows enveloped me as I stared at the shadow on the ground and murmured, Brother, I'm going to kill him. Brooke's voice came from behind. Tammy, he can't die now. I remained silent, watching as he took Brian away. The wind howled, sweeping the fallen leaves off the ground. Stacy approached me, uncertain of how much she had heard. He followed you here, she said. Aren't you curious about how he knew where to find you? I blinked, a realization dawning on me. With stiff movements, I bowed my head and pulled out the crescent moon amulet. Then, I crushed it. Inside was a miniature tracker. The fragments of the necklace lay in my palm, mocking my naive fantasies. Stacy's voice was like a demon's temptation. Tammy, come with me. I'll help you kill them. Stacy had taken 1/5 of the special operatives' gifted individuals with her. I was among them. We were officially labeled as reactionaries. But that didn't stop Stacy from continuing to recruit gifted individuals and rescue residents. Although their rescues had ulterior motives, every rescued resident was profoundly grateful. As summer approached, the temperature rose, and it began to rain outside. Without air conditioning, the air was hot and humid. I became weak, spending most of the day sleeping in my room, according to Stacy. The zombies had also decreased recently, hiding in buildings, hardly seen on the streets. I occasionally joined them on missions, and once, we unexpectedly ran into the special operations team. Unfortunately, Tara was there too. She was in tears, begging me to come back. I remained expressionless and shook my head. I couldn't go back. Tammy was long gone. A war ensued between us, amidst the powers and gunfire, after a bullet grazed me. Tara couldn't help but use her psychic abilities to make her teammates stop shooting. She had broken the rules for gifted individuals, aiding us. I didn't know what punishment awaited her back home. Brooke was always cold and rational, carving responsibilities into his marrow. He wouldn't cover for her. Stacy and I got into the car, and I looked back at Tara one last time. Her tears were on the brink of falling, her body heaving dramatically, pitiful like a helpless little creature. It was a sight that would soften anyone's heart. I pursed my lips, daring not to look any longer, and forced myself to turn away. Stacy patted my shoulder. "Do you want to go back? Brooke probably wouldn't refuse you." "I won't go back. Brooke wouldn't let me kill Brian. After all, he was the hope of humanity. The next time we met, he would only kill me." Stacy promised to help me kill Brian. She found the location of the official research institute where Brian and his group were. On the way there, Stacy asked me about the origin of the virus. I was momentarily dazed. The God-making project. Stacy was taken aback. Brian and the others discovered that humans could undergo another evolution, mastering the 5 elements, manipulating objects with their minds, abilities reserved for gods. They believed that humans could become gods. They developed the Z virus, and they succeeded. Partially, half became zombies, half evolved into beings with special powers. The virus wasn't accidentally leaked, it was deliberately released by them. Ironically, these researchers themselves did not evolve. I smirked cynically. They were the creators of the virus, and only they could attempt to find a solution. Thus, humanity needed them. The car stopped, and we all got out. The research institute was heavily guarded. I drew a horde of zombies, while Stacy and others lured the guards with special powers away, allowing me to sneak in during the chaos. I locked the main entrance of the institute, ignoring the zombies that followed me inside, and headed to the 2nd floor. I opened the lab door and saw Brian and 4 others with expressions of terror. I gave them a gentle smile. "You so wish to play God? Then let God judge you." Controlled. Several people walked out of the lab and jumped down from the 2nd floor corridor. They crashed into the lobby on the 1st floor. Their restraints suddenly vanished, and they struggled to their feet, but the zombies surged towards them. "Help! Help!" They ran around in panic, just like I did once, crumbled, desperate, praying for God's mercy. I chuckled softly. How pitiful. I didn't want to become a god. I just wanted to live as a human, but they deprived me of that choice, inflicting endless pain upon me. Thus, I did not become a god. I was a failed experiment. Experiment number 1, a failure. Their ugly desires and greed destroyed them, and me as well. Humanity, too, would sink into an eternal, endless darkness. Heavy footsteps sounded. Turning around, I saw a familiar, tall silhouette. Officer Brooke, with a gun at his hip, had a cold gaze and a stern face. He probably came to kill me, but I didn't care. Smiling, I mockingly pointed at the gruesome scene in the hall. "Officer Brooke, the justice you uphold is fading away." The virus would continue to spread, the death toll would keep rising, the desires of those with powers would never be satisfied, the apocalypse would perpetuate forever, until humanity vanished. This was God's judgment, the punishment for humanity's foolish attempt to become gods. Instead of the expected bullet, I fell into a cold embrace. Hearing his murmuring, I froze. He said, "Tammy, I'll take you away." The sound of rain was dense and incessant. It was artificial rain. No, not rain, but a vaccine. Humanity's antidote. In disbelief, I looked out the window, went downstairs, and pushed open the main door of the institute. The antidote showered over me, bringing a fine, piercing pain. The strength that wasn't mine to begin with gradually faded, and I could no longer control any zombies. The antidote not only reversed the zombification but also the devolution of special abilities. Humans could never become gods. The absurd plan to create gods had claimed billions of human lives. And just as the end seemed near, humanity finally received its judgment. And what was my judgment? Personal pain and despair would be buried under the dust of history. Those who died in this catastrophe would not be resurrected, and the grievances of those who suffered in the apocalypse could not be vindicated. The survivors could only rejoice, grateful to have lived through such a massive disaster. They had found a cure. But a cure for me would never appear. Sinners don't deserve a cure. To accept the end of life meekly and die in despair was the retribution fate had dealt me. Rain and darkness consumed me. I fell to the ground, letting the liquid strike my eyes. I reached out, trying to grasp a beam of light piercing through the clouds. I faintly saw my parents standing there, smiling. "Take me away. Living is truly difficult. It's too painful. Take me away, even if what awaits after death is hell. It's better than wandering alone in this world." Seconds before losing consciousness, I heard an anxious shout. Darkness was all I could see. I followed a trace of light, but couldn't reach its end. Sometimes, when tired, I would stop to rest. I could vaguely hear someone talking to me. "All the infected have recovered, and social order is being restored. Everyone is striving to survive." What infected? They all received their due punishment. Justice has never faded. "Tammy, it's all over." He spoke words I couldn't understand. "I love you." Suddenly, The distant light jumped and became clear and bright. I immediately got up and chased after it, chasing the light and breaking through the darkness. What came into view was a vast expanse of white. I squinted uncomfortably. "Tammy, you're awake." Tara hurried off to call the doctor. I was confused. Looking around, I appeared to be in a hospital's single room. A few minutes later, it wasn't Tara who returned, but Brooke. He looked like he was about to cry. I was puzzled. "Bro, what's wrong?" Brooke froze. I had lost my memory. Just yesterday, I was preparing a gift for Brooke, and today, it was 4 years later. Life is full of miracles. They told me my parents died in an experimental accident. Strangely, I accepted it faster than I thought I would. The TV was airing a harsh critique of Brian and others' malevolent God-making plans and inhumane experiments. I was amazed. Some people had also come looking for trouble, but Brooke told them I was coerced by the reactionaries. And his protective stance effectively drove everyone away. The rest, they didn't let me hear. I must have done something earth-shattering before I lost my memory. Anyway, I started living a fairy tale life in the hospital. Occasionally, Tara would talk to me about the outside world. She mentioned that Stacy had disappeared. Sounded familiar, but I didn't recognize her. She said the rest of the reactionaries had been officially arrested. I ate chips, uninterested in what she was saying. The gap in my memory was too big. I couldn't keep up with their pace. Superpowers, reactionaries, zombies. I suspected they made it all up to deceive me. After being discharged, I moved into Brooke's family home. Tara mentioned Aunt Sylvia had died, and I was sad for a day. Only then did I believe that their tales of an apocalypse weren't lies. But the dead are gone, and the living must carry on with their expectations and live well. Brooke found me a tutor to catch up on my studies. I'm going to take the college entrance exam next year. During the time I lost my memory, Tara secretly got accepted into university behind my back, and here I am, still a helpless high school student. I felt betrayed. Tara flaunted in front of me how great it felt to be done with the college entrance exam, smiling gleefully. All I could do was complain to Brooke. After the college entrance exam, I finally felt free. Brooke gave me a moon necklace. I really liked it, he said. "Tammy," I looked up. Brooke, with a serious and devout expression, confessed, "I like you." My breath hitched, and my heart thudded loudly, as if it was trying to burst out of my chest. Then, I made the most impulsive and bold decision of my life. I tiptoed up and kissed him on the lips. "I like you too. I've liked you for a long time." The TV in the background was reporting on post-disaster reconstruction, the host enthusiastically declaring that the apocalypse was over and humanity's future was bright. In front of the TV, we held each other. The air around us turned scorching hot and sweet. Despite the rough and painful past, dark and hopeless, that was all behind us, humanity always moves forward, and we, carrying hope and love, will follow the path they have struggled to pave. Walking towards the light, humanity persists, forever yearning for the light.